Welcome to the meeting of the Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District Board of Trustees for January 25th, 2024. I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:34 p.m. Could I have roll call, please?
Brianna Texoni here.
Lester Mascot here.
Balls you have here, we have two board members absent. I would like to read the following into the record. This is from Board Member Costan to Deborah Duardo, County Superintendent of Schools, regarding the resignation of Mr. Costan from the Governing Board of Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District. Dear Dr. Duardo, I hereby resign my position from the Governing Board of the Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District effective January 24th, 2024. My family and I have decided to relocate out of state in the next few months. Knowing this, I can no longer serve in good faith. Sincerely, Tom Costan. I'm going to make the following statement. On behalf of the board and district, I would like to thank not only Mr. Costan, but the entire Costan family for their innumerable contributions to the quality of life in our community. I would like to extend my sympathy that Board Member DeJesus is not here this evening. He was called out in a situation that was unavoidable, and we'll look for his speedy return. That said, do I have a motion to approve the agenda for the special board meeting of, I want to explain something before I move on. This is a special board meeting because we have a short closed session. So we'll go into closed session and then we will resume the meeting a bit earlier when we come out. I'm sure everyone that has homework and a life would very much appreciate that, as I do. So agenda for the special board meeting of January 25th, 2004. And that changes that the open session begins at 7 instead of 7:30. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll motion.
Second.
Mr. Falsgraf.
Yes.
Regarding 1C, agenda for special board meeting, January 25th, 24, we have two amendments.
Okay.
The first amendment is under consent agenda 9F as in Frank. The Genesis Group Agreement has a date change to January 25th, 2024 to reflect today's board meeting date. The second amendment is under Personnel 10A as an apple. The PAR had several amendments. We did remove a candidate from the ratification for employment section. We added a resignation, an IA from Vasquez High School. And we added an appointment of a JV softball coach. And then we placed back a PE teacher in progress in the open positions section on the part. Thank you.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Call the question.
Aye.
Aye.
Falsgraf, aye. 3, 1, 1. No, 3, 1. Yes, someone's absent. Thank you. That's why I passed third grade. Public participation. Are there any, what's up out there? Are there any public comments at this time?
Not at this time, Mr. Falsgraf.
Thank you. So we will adjourn to closed session. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
I'll second.
And during closed session, we may speak about conference of labor negotiators, employee discussion, discipline, dismissal, release, conference with legal counsel, or student matters. So I'm going to ask that we adjourn to closed session at 6:38 p.m. I think we've had the motions already. Is that right?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Call the question.
Yes.
Aye.
Falsgraf, aye. 3-0-3-1. No, it's 3-0. with one absence very quickly. All right, we'll see y'all in a little. We will reconvene the regular meeting of January 25th, 2024 at 7:04 p.m. Before we get rolling with the business, there's only 3 of us here tonight. We do have a quorum. Mr. DeJesus had some unexpected business pop up, and we hope for him to return well next meeting. I do have the following to read into the record. This was read before the closed session meeting. This is from Board Member Costan to the County Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Duardo. Dear Dr. Duardo, I hereby resign my position from the governing board of the Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District effective January 24th, 2024. My family and I have decided to relocate out of state in the next few months. Knowing this, I can no longer serve in good faith. Sincerely, Tom Costan. I would, on behalf of the board and the district, I would like to thank not only Mr. Costan, but the entire Costan family for their innumerable contributions to the quality of life in our community. Moving ahead, let's go to number 4. I've asked the person that brings you television live, Alex, could you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I comply. Right hand over your head, over your heart. Ready? Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll be reading the civility statement. When conducting the district's business, we will strive to communicate clearly and concisely with a respect for the time of others, listen objectively, carefully considering the opinions of others, understand the counterproductive effects of disruptive, demeaning, and intimidating behaviors, understand and respect district policies and procedures, and maintain a respect for the rich history of the district and efforts of others who have served in the past. Moving on, I'm going to report out that there was no action taken in closed session this evening. You have to retrain me on how to turn pages, it looks like. Now is the time for public comments, recognition report. Do we have any public comments at this time?
Yes, one public comment card was full, Mr. Paulsgraf.
One of my favorite people, Mr. Rowland. Can we hear from you, please?
I won't take long. I just wanted to publicly express gratitude and appreciation to Dr. Sahaki and all the school board members. This past month, you guys graciously funded our handbell trip to Universal City Walk. And without your help, just know that a lot of families would not have been able to financially come up with the means to both get their child to and from, as well as fund perhaps tickets to attend the concert right at Christmas time. And it's always been my strong belief that I don't want the handbell program to ever be a financial burden. So I just want you each to know how much of the difference you made in our group. So thank you for your continued support. And I just have a small little gifts for some of you, if you don't mind. Can I pass them out, or is that inappropriate?
You do whatever you like. You just make sure you're teaching here next year. So this will be on your form 700. That will be on your form 700.
Thank you, sir.
This will not be on my.
Thank you again. We really appreciate it. You should know it's one of the rare concerts that every student went to. Because that was not a pass. Well, Mr. Organ, we have said if I get to come take the basement. I didn't know she was gonna be here.
Call the question. Well,
You know that Brianna was my student.
that's very touching.
Where'd you hear that from? Who lied to you?
What's happening?
Well, thanks.
Okay, we're gonna violate the board rules. Brianna, may I have your comment? Oh, by the way, I moved comment to the end of the meeting.
He's trying to sneak out.
No, excuse me, block the door, security. I have moved public comment to the end of the meeting, so I don't go on and on and on while people are trying to sleep, but Mr. Rowland, please have a seat. You'll be addressed by first immediate past president, Ms. Taxoni.
Since this was a handbells comment, open comment, I will keep my comments to stick with handbells and not brag about your class and what an amazing teacher you are and all of the different ways that you changed not just my lives, but my kids' lives as well. I won't go there. But I will say that half of my children were able to be in handbells as well as my sister and do such incredible things. You taught me how to read music in handbells. Those kids that get to do what you have brought and what you have built together with them. And I know it's a team, and I know that you consider them and their families all part of the handbell family. It's nothing short of absolutely incredible. What you've given to our community and what you continue to share with communities around us, like going to Universal City Walk and going to the Dorothy Chandler and so many different things that you and your handbell family are able to give to all of us is just absolutely incredible and inspiring. And there's not enough praise and thank yous to everything that you all do. And thank you so much. Thank you for being here. When I walked out and saw you, it always makes my heart happy. So thank you so much.
Vice President Mascon.
We don't know each other. I didn't go to school here. I never worked here.
I did.
But my kids go to school here, so.
I thought you said before, please move ahead.
But I've always enjoyed all the handle performances. I think they're awesome. And every time I've seen you on stage and I've seen you at the school for award ceremonies and everything, your dedication is so obvious. And the amount of effort and energy you put into everything you do is just so apparent. I was there for the Medal of Honor presentations he did for sixth grade. That was great. It's fantastic to see so much effort put into everything you do. So we're glad to have you.
I'd like to donate my time to Kevin and the superintendent to tell us about the work that the arts committee did, as well as how this was actually funded. Now, good, thanks, go.
There it
Goes. Hello, good evening, board members. So yeah, the Arts Committee has been meeting basically monthly over at least for the last part of the school year, or from the beginning of this school year. And even prior to that, I know we were meeting, I think on a quarterly basis, if I'm not mistaken, or was it monthly? I was new to the program, but part of that Arts Committee is that we are looking at the whole district in terms of all arts, right? And so the way that we do get an arts grant through LACO. That's not quite necessarily how this part was funded, but we are getting state dollars from Prop 28 that will fund all these arts and initiatives that we have through the committee, and such a great community involvement. So that's how we make sure that we get our arts and music programs rolling.
So Dr. Sahakian, since you'll be to blame for my weight increase, and since he referenced your name, tell us about the grant that was applied for what's this is really why this is happening here. Could you do that?
The arts grant?
Whatever grant, all of them, $5.5 million that we didn't have.
Well, there's multiple grants. We're quite aggressive in applying for grants and making sure that we maximize opportunities for our school district and of course, you know, the achievement of our students. And it always goes back to the classroom. And when we're talking about student achievement, and just to reference Mr. Falsgraff's comments, you know, being awarded grants through the U.S. Department of Education, Department of Justice, even the local grants such as LACO and with the arts grant, all of these specifically help enrich activities and the students' culture and climate on campus. The DOJ grant supports training on campuses for school-related safety concerns. The U.S. Department of Education grant funded our social workers and the We Care AADUSD initiative with our social workers that provides free mental health counseling for students in need. And the arts grant with LACO support and the consultant that we've been assigned, who's fantastic, Miss Melissa, helps to drive the community partnerships and enhancing our enrichment for all of our students.
So to Mr. Rowland's point, not detracting, having this program detract from the budget. I remember when I first hit the board, it's a bad deal when you've got people trying to do things like this. I don't know how many high school musical groups show up at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion every year. Is it like flooded with them, or is it just kind of like you every
Palmdale High School does, and we. but-
every year?
Well, the last 4 years, we haven't been able to apply because they have a COVID vaccination requirement. I don't know if you've heard about all the drama behind.
Yeah. You see the scars on my face. Let's skip that part and get to the real thing.
We did it
Dorothy,
for like 15 years, and then we had to not apply because
Dor-
I wasn't gonna force my students to get a vaccination just to perform.
wow, America has choice in our district. Thank you, sir. I'll pay you for that one later. But no, in all seriousness, this group performs at the highest level and is recognized at the highest levels in downtown Los Angeles. Mr. Rowland, you are the brand of our district. Thank you.
Mr. Falsgraf, I would like to loop around because I have one more thing to say, but also
It will cost you your pencil that I didn't get one, but go ahead, have at it.
we should have, and it's my fault, we should have started with Miss Aislinn with our board comments. So I would like to loop around and start with where we should have started in the first place. So I apologize, but the floor is yours.
That's completely okay. All right. Yeah, I had Mr. Rowland as my 6th grade teacher, and you were fantastic. I couldn't have asked for a better teacher. I regret never joining handbells. A lot of my friends do it. I'm like,
Not too late.
42 years old.
I'll email you.
All right.
Okay, got it. Yeah, but it's fantastic what you do and give students the opportunity to engage in some musical performing arts that our school might otherwise be lacking, especially middle school and elementary school, all the sites really. And it's really encouraging to see the opportunities that you give students. Thank you.
Okay, so I started off by saying that I wasn't going to talk about how Mr. Rowland single-handedly changed my life and where I am, but I figured that deserves some time, so I will share. I have talked about how I went to school here and how I grew up here. I talk about it a lot. I think it's an important part of my life and why I sit here. So I've talked about when this room was our library, and I had to sit in the library when I didn't do my work, and I don't really know why I was in trouble. I mean, I didn't pay attention a whole lot. I absolutely hated school, I had a ton of absences. I remember sitting in Miss Gonder's office because I just hated school until 5th grade. And then when I got in 6th grade, I was lucky enough to get Mr. Rowland. I had D's and F's all through school until I was in 6th grade and I got my first A. And I will never forget, on our first day of school, you were telling a story and I honestly don't remember the whole concept of it, but you said that you were gonna go on a vacation in the summertime and you kind of paused and you were, wow, okay. And I don't remember how it got there, but you were, you brought up the fact that we didn't ask where you were going, that we didn't care enough to raise our hand and say, Mr. Rowland, where are you going? We had never been taught that we were allowed to ask teachers questions like that, to ask personal questions. And so we all said, oh, where are you going? Because then we wanted to know. We're allowed to ask. And you said, no, I will bring it up on the last day of school, and then you can ask me that again. And you didn't talk about it all year long. On the last day of school, you were talking about summer break and what everybody was doing. And I remembered, and I said, where are you going on your vacation? And you were going to Hawaii. So I don't know how many times you've been to Hawaii, but that's where you were going that summer. And that made such an impact that day in how our entire year was going to go. And then those morals and those teachings and the way that you interacted with us being 12-year-olds, preteen, sixth graders who, I did not care about school until I got into your class. And now I don't have memories, like memorabilia and stuff from all of grade school, but I have a Mr. Rowland box. So in all of my stuff, I have my yearbooks and I have my Mr. Rowland box, and it has my paper mache bear, and it has my checkbook. It's full, it's packed full. And every time I pull it out, I have to strategically put it back so my bear doesn't get squished. But I know in my heart of hearts that I wouldn't have made it through high school without the teachings that you gave me, even into high school, being a cabin leader with you. I for sure wouldn't be here. I definitely wouldn't have started working for the school district. I mean, really, who knows? Who knows where I'd be without the great and powerful Mr. Rowland. So thank you. I just wanted to share all of that. You, year after year after year, you touch people's lives in ways that you don't even know. So I just wanted to publicly say thank you.
Don't forget, you asked me to walk you down the pageant.
You
Give
did.
me that opportunity. What does it feel like to be a father?
You did. He was my escort for a junior Miss Acton pageant when all of the other girls had their dads walking them. That was definitely special. Thank you.
Did you win?
Oh, no, I didn't win until. No, it was fun though. That was definitely, I'll have to pull out the pictures. Oh, thank you very much. Did you know I went to school here?
Mr. Falter, did you say I didn't give you a pen? Mr. Falter, did you say I didn't give you a pen? Did I skip it?
No, I'll steal when it's good. Lester,
Sorry.
Mr. Rowland, why didn't you, I have nothing but girls. Why didn't you tell me I could have subcontracted all of that? They would have turned out better. Anyone else? Thank you, sir. In all seriousness, thank you.
I don't mean to be rude, but I really do have something.
Thank you. And that's it. Last call on public comment.
One more thing, just kidding.
Light me up so I can be the old Ken. We're good. So we've got all our reports and recognition. I am excited about this one. This is the strategic plan. Number 7, first read, Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District Strategic Plan. First read.
Yes, informational item we're very excited to be presenting. I'll be co-presenting with our Vasquez students, senior Marina Costin, as well as junior Emily Hunanian. I'll meet you both at the podium. Well, good evening, everybody. It's a different vantage point for me, but it's nice to be down here with our phenomenal students from Vasquez High School. Once again, I'm honored to be co-presenting with Marina as well as Emily. They are 2 students from Vasquez High School out of the 6 that were part of the strategic plan development team. They took 3 full days out of their curriculum, their teaching, their learning at Vasquez High School to be here as part of the group of 31, 32 individuals that made up the development team. Development team was made up of course, students, as well as current parents, former parents of the district, community members, as well as staff members. So with that said, we're very excited to go ahead and present our first read, and this will be our 2024 updated AADUSD Strategic Plan Initiative. So the table of contents for this evening, what we'll be co-presenting on for you will be the plan overview and process. How do we get to this point in time? Because it has been about 1.5 years. So we're very mindful with the approach. We'll go ahead and unveil the new AADUSD mission and vision if approved by our trustees. That goes along with our AADUSD core beliefs and values. Something that's been added, that's a new feature to the plan in its totality, is a graduate profile. What do we expect our students to accomplish? What does that profile look like once they leave our school district as graduates of AADUSD? The updated strategic plan goals, there are 5, and my co-presenters will be presenting that information. Something that's been newly added to the updated plan will be action items and deliverables. These will be the activities that will make sure and to ensure that we meet our goals over time. And most school district strategic plans are for a period of 3 to 5 years from the point of adoption. And then I will review next steps. What does this mean for the district, and how will we communicate this to the entire community? So strategic plan overview. What is a strategic plan? It is a living document, living, breathing document that communicates the organization's goals, its priorities needed to meet these goals, and the metrics used to measure progress. And that is a very essential point. What are the metrics used to measure progress on these goals? And we will come by that through the actionable items and the deliverables for academic and operational aspects of a school district. It's also a planning process that's designed to update the previous plan. And this process started back in the fall of 2022. It's been some time, but I'll review the process, and that includes the input that we received and solicited from our staff, our parents, and our community as a whole to make sure that we capture the essence of what our district needs to move forward in a successful manner. The next slide is our current strategic plan that was adopted back in 2018. This really provided the foundation for the groups working on developing and updating the new plan. So with a strong foundation of 5 goals, we maintained the goals in of itself. Goal 1, student achievement. Goal 2, effective instruction and leadership. Goal 3, community engagement. 4, student safety and connectedness. And 5, utilization of fiscal capital. That maintained as we're updating the plan, but how we define these 5 were tweaked and updated, and then we'll go over some of the updates with you. So the planning process, like I said earlier, we started this process back in the fall of 2022, and it was quite intensive and very comprehensive. So we started by pushing out an electronic survey to the entire community, not just AADUSD, but many of our community members that participate in district and school functions, past parents, alumni, and so forth. So there was a planning survey that solicited insight about the district's strengths and current challenges. Then we started on listening sessions, these listening sessions as a focus group per se, and it helped facilitated discussions with identified group of individuals aimed at collecting information. Then we moved forward with developing a leadership team, which was part of the writing team. The writing team took the content and the insight and the input from the development team, from the listening sessions, as well as the plan, the planning survey to put a comprehensive updated plan together. The listening sessions took place at all 3 school sites. I was at Meadowlark, High Desert, and Vasquez. We also held listening sessions for parents, students, and staff were also included. We wanted to hear all voices. The following questions were the prompts that were asked at the listening sessions. What changes over the next 3 to 10 years in our community do you see as important for the district to address? What are the most important actions for the school district to take to ensure all of our students graduate well prepared to further education and or career with growth potential? And the third question, upon graduation from high school, what do you hope our students will know and be able to do? That helped to facilitate the graduate profile. Many times we put surveys out, generally speaking, not we the district, but I've done surveys and I never really see or hear the outcome of the survey, generally speaking. Once we put the survey out and we receive the input, thank you IT, to Alex and Caesar for supporting the survey process, technology-wise. But we put out a infographic that really helped to provide an overview of the survey results. In some of the survey results, we talked about strengths and challenges, some of the strengths that were identified, one being that we're a small district, that is a strength. Staff commitment to student achievement, our signature programs, including CT programs, AVID, innovative technology. Some of the areas of growth from the survey included impact of increased enrollment in class sizes, which kind of triggered the next response, facilities expansion based on increased enrollment and staffing shortages. Along with the infographic that was pushed out to the entire community so that they could see the survey results, we talked about the methodology that was used in the listening sessions and the type of questions that were asked, the types of questions that were asked in the surveys, and then the next steps was to solicit those who are interested in joining the development team. And so we went ahead and received input and those that were interested, and they joined the development team, and that comprised of about 31 individuals, like I stated earlier. We took an opportunity, a little break from the 3-day session. Again, it was a full day session. It was quite intense. The development team, all the participants, they were broken up into 6 groups. Everybody received the same types of prompts in terms of developing and enhancing the existing strategic plan. So we took a moment just to go ahead and take a group photo. And I want to thank each and every individual that took time out. I appreciate your dedication to the district and to the process. Now, I'm excited to turn it over to Miss Emily Hunanian.
So our strategic plan is more than just the strategic goals. It's actually supplemented by a few things, and you'll see them on the board up there. So the first thing it's supplemented by is the mission and vision statement. The mission statement is the objectives and the aim for our district, as well as how we're going to do that. And the vision statement is where we aspire to go, what we're striving to do. So essentially, when we envision our district, this is what we see, this is what we hope for. The second thing is the core beliefs and values, which is the central idea behind what we believe in, what we value, and how we'll deal with different affairs, whether that be students, teachers, stakeholders, etc. And then the last part is the graduate profile. So this is looking at a graduate from our district. What are they like? What do they know? What have they learned? what skills do they have, the profile of a graduate. So from here on out, all the slides that will follow this one will all be presenting updated content from our strategic plan. So our vision and mission statement, it's up there if you would like to read it, but it essentially talks about what we value, collaboration with parents, staff, teachers, all members of the community, working to achieve powerful learning, for all students to be able to achieve successes, in a safe and supportive culture. You'll see culture will be mentioned several times during this presentation, and each time it's mentioned, it'll be like furtherly expanded on what that culture encompasses. This also mentions support, whether that be academic, social, emotional, and leaving students with lifelong skills. Our mission statement is similar to our vision statement. It expands on the culture we strive to have and what we want to leave our students with, being lifelong learners, being productive and socially responsible citizens. So for our core beliefs, they talk about how we believe that all students deserve a high quality education that will prepare them for higher education and or a career path. This is essentially acknowledging that students will take various paths. Not everyone goes to college or career. It's different for everyone, and we acknowledge that. Some students will require more support than others. So this is acknowledging individual needs of students. Again, no two students are alike, and we believe that it is the district's responsibility to provide whatever support is necessary. Here is mentioned principles of equity, inclusion, and diversity to shape our culture. These core beliefs 4 and 5 talk about inclusion, including parents, including stakeholders and members of the community to give meaningful learning experiences to the students. And then our last core belief is that in order to achieve this academic success, students require safe and orderly learning environment and several different support systems.
And with that, I'm gonna move on to the district values. So these 7 values are basically what we kept in mind during the whole strategic planning process, and everything was based around these. So excellence, equity, integrity, respect, inclusion, empathy, and collaboration. So moving on to the graduate profile. This is essentially what graduates should take away with them after leaving our high school and exiting the district. And this is how we want to prepare them for whatever path they go on after they leave Vasquez. So our graduates should successfully complete academic coursework necessary to prepare them for higher education and or career growth potential, whatever their career may be. Have been involved in a variety of student activities and leadership experiences, have participated in activities which prepare them to be active, socially responsible citizens, possess good communication skills, gain a clear sense of college and career goals, and be prepared to succeed in higher education, whether that be college or another path, with a strong academic record and extracurricular experiences. So the strategic planning was split up into 3 different segments for each goal that we created. So first we have the overarching goals, and this provides a roadmap for the district, guiding decision-making and resource allocation. So that's the overarching goals we made. And then to get more specific within the goals, we have our areas of focus. And the areas of focus we defined as areas that we're focusing on to align efforts and resources toward achieving specific goals that we made over a defined period of time, such as 3 to 5 years. And then to get even more specific than that, within the areas of focus are our action items or our deliverables, which was added this year. And those are the specific tasks that need to be done in order to achieve the goals.
So here's our first strategic goal, student achievement. You'll see there are LCAP goals listed under the goal itself. So those are there because those LCAP goals align with our strategic plan goals. So for strategic goal 1, student achievement, these LCAP goals specifically align with them. So our strategic goal essentially talks about improving all aspects of student success, whether it's academic, behavioral, social, emotional, and making sure that the students are ready to be independently productive and purposeful leaders in whatever path takes them after they exit our district. So LCAP Goal 1 mentions a high-quality education system, academic rigor with a multi-tiered system that focuses on narrowing the achievement gap. LCAP Goal 4 talks about ensuring that secondary students are on track to graduate from high school, that they're ready for college and career, that they experience academic progress, and that we keep the graduation rate 95% or higher. And then lastly, LCAP Goal 5 talks about a safe, secure, and drug-free learning environment for our students. We want our students to succeed, therefore we're providing them an environment that's going to allow them to do that. And then making sure that we have standard aligned material, safe, secure, and aesthetically pleasing learning environments for our students. So the areas of focus for this goal include a coherent multi-tiered system of support, focusing on academic, behavioral, and social emotional success, utilizing district-wide benchmarks and assessment tools to determine the strengths and needs of students, preparing and increasing awareness of college and career opportunities upon graduation through rigorous and relevant coursework, and as well as maintaining learning environments that promote critical thinking, collaboration, problem solving, and other skills to engage students in their learning. The action items, essentially the examples of what we're going to do to implement this goal, include strengthening PBIS through professional staff development, implementing district-wide peer counseling programs. So not only would this peer counseling benefit the student that's being tutored, it's also helping the student tutoring. It's teaching them mentorship, scheduling regular benchmark assessments to track our students' progress and growth, and partnering with community organizations to provide students impactful service opportunities.
Emily, if I could go ahead and interject very quickly. What you'll see on the slide, as we're moving forward with the action items and deliverables, we'll be providing quarterly updates to the board during board meetings. So to update the board, as well as, of course, our community stakeholders. So as we update the action items, they'll be denoted by whether these items that you see listed have they started, are they in progress, or are they ongoing items? And I'd like to clarify that this is just a snapshot of just 4 examples of a myriad of action items listed under Goal 1 student achievement. This is just a very short snapshot of the action items that the development team came up with. So once approved, the updated strategic plan, we'll have the comprehensive strategic plan online on our website, and you'll see all of the action items outlined specifically. Take it away.
Okay, so our second goal is effective instruction and leadership, which is to say to strengthen the quality of instruction and leadership within our district with a focus on meaningful, productive interactions and implement equitable, high-quality, data-informed instruction. This encompasses LCAP Goal 1 and 4, which Emily already went over, so I'll skip that. So the areas of focus for effective instruction is to attract and retain well-qualified staff. Of course, staff health and well-being is always very important. Providing teachers with the proper training to understand data-driven instruction and preparation for testing. Promote the use of innovative ideas and strategies to engage students in collaborative learning. and responsibility and accountability. And our action items and deliverables, a few examples. To engage with colleges and universities, which means having representatives from HR attend job fairs at colleges and universities to connect with potential candidates. Vasquez has already started to engage with colleges. Like last year, we had a college fair and field trips like that we're doing. So that's kind of already in place. Also, regular check-ins, establish regular check-ins between staff and HR to address concerns, provide support, and ensure a transparent flow of information. Data analysis skills, training on data analysis techniques, helping teachers identify trends, patterns, and areas for improvement in student performance. And assessments, encourage the use of formative and summative assessments aligned with state standards and to gauge student progress.
Our third strategic goal is community engagement, which encompasses establishing and maintaining a culture which encourages positive relationships among students, staff, parents, as well as educational, business, and community partners. So our first LCAP goal listed is LCAP Goal 2, which talks about maximizing learning time, making sure that families will be engaged, connected, and empowered to be active within a safe and healthy school climate. And LCAP 3 talks about, again, involving parents and community members in decision-making at both school and district levels, providing connections between the community and schools to foster investment in education, maintaining communication with all stakeholders, and ensuring that all members of the community, parents, students, and teachers feel that our schools are providing a safe, positive environment for our students to learn in. The areas of focus for this goal essentially acknowledge that in order to have community engagement, there needs to be communication. So a cohesive and proactive internal and external strategic communication plan that will inform and engage our diverse community and educational partners as well. It will be timely and accurate. And then our second area of focus is establishing and expanding diverse opportunities to promote an inviting, supportive, and safe environment. And again, encouraging active participation for all students, staff, and community partners. And then lastly, the action items include being proactive on social media platforms, providing regular updates and engaging content, showcasing the individuals and the achievements that make this community special, continuing shadow day programs to allow students to experience various school offerings, educational paths, enrichment activities, athletic programs, and host regular parent workshops to teach our parents how to provide academic support, all the way to social emotional well-being.
And our fourth strategic goal is student safety and connectedness, which essentially is to heighten the district's commitment to fostering a culture that promotes emotional health, safety, and well-being of students, staff, and parents. This falls under LCAP goals 2, 3, and 5, which Emily already went over. So our areas of focus for student safety is to maintain a safe and respectful environment, which is obviously essential to student success. And then school connectedness, which could include just having a good understanding of what's going on at each school, creating a comfortable environment, and not being blind to the unique school culture and within our district. So our action items, some examples for student safety and connectedness: control access points to enhance security and monitor entry effectively. This has already been done at VHS with the front office. Provide regular professional development for all staff on campus safety. Conduct active shooter drills to prepare students and staff for emergency situations, something really important in the modern day, and launch a mentorship program connecting staff, students, or community members with students.
Our our last strategic goal is utilization of fiscal capital. And this is essentially making sure that our budgeting is operating efficiently and effectively, supporting students, and it's meeting the district goals and expectations. And LCAP goals 1 and 5, which are listed there, have already been covered. So I'll move on to the areas of focus. So ensuring oversight and accountability practices are effectively implemented, monitored to refine instructional programs, and ensure their effectiveness. So this is essentially making sure that the things that are being implemented, such as accountability practices, are being effective, excuse me. And then the second area of focus is examining opportunities for modernization. This could range from a classroom to the campus, to the athletics, etc. The action items for this goal include conducting a comprehensive assessment of our current classroom facilities, prioritizing our projects based on safety, functionality, and the overall student experience. Again, with prioritizing equipment upgrades based on functionality, safety, and the relevance it serves to current curriculum. And then lastly, seeking input from stakeholders, and ensuring that the modernization efforts meet community standards.
Thank you, Marina and Emily. Very eloquent and poised. I appreciate you. Our next steps, February 2024, will be our second read, and it'll be an action item to be voted for approval or not. Once approved, we'll develop a public communication piece, a comprehensive communication piece to unveil the approved strategic plan for the next 3 to 5 years, which will be the roadmap for our district, which will include the graduate profile, updated mission, vision, core beliefs, and values. The superintendent's report will continue to embed and address the alignment of our strategic plan as it pertains to district updates. In addition, it would be my desire to actually incorporate moving forward on the board meeting agenda items. Any agenda item that we have listed would be tied to the strategic goal, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, as well as the relevant LCAP goal. That would be my desire for the board moving forward, respectfully. Quarterly updates, strategic plan quarterly updates and progress to start with the school board meetings, as well as district communication pieces and newsletters and parent groups. Because once again, like I mentioned earlier, this is a live document. There are metrics, there are the action items, deliverables that will be taken upon us as staff from leadership and other staff members to take a look at to make sure that are we meeting our targets, are we meeting our goals, and are we moving the district in the right direction. And that will come along with matching this up to the LCAP, as we have to update our LCAP annually by law. That's a requirement. We'll be taking a look at our LCAP, how that aligns, and the LCFF funding, how that aligns to our strategic goals, so that both plans could be mirrored and be speaking to one another as we move forward. And with that, we will move it to the folks who were part of the development and writing team. I'll leave this up there for about a minute. I want to thank each and every individual that participated, that took time out, whether they were part of the development team or the writing team or both. Your input, your time was invaluable. We would not have gone to the place that we are here as a district if it wasn't for your input and your insight, because each and every one of you had a unique lens, whether you are a current administrator, a teacher, a former parent, a current parent, and most importantly, a student. Your input and your feedback was, again, priceless. So thank you to the individuals there.
Superintendent,
Yes.
before we get into our questions and stuff, I've asked everyone up on the dais to read these names off one by one. Let's start with the student rep and we'll move through the list. Go ahead, please.
Yes. So we'd like to thank everyone personally. So Ashley Annett, Brittany Blymeyer, Dr. Paula Chamberlain, Nicole Chun, Kimberly Clemens, Marina Costin, Stephanie Council, Meredith Gatter,
and Mary Fife, Alex Herdosia, Emily Hunanian, Kelly Jensen, past board member. And is this Mikey? Mika. Oh, I'm so sorry. I should have known that. Mika Kramer, Alexa Lepp, Zachary Levine, Hartley Lundquist, Sandy Madsen.
Starting out with the easy one. Sahar Makinwa,
Mm.
Desiree Maloney, Nathan Mango, Yolanda McCauley, Marion McClaus, Tiffany Montoya, Kate O'Mara, Carla Rodriguez.
Maria Romano, Eric Sahakian, Nicole Saucedo, Dawn Schneider, Victoria Taylor, Mervat Taufik, formerly the artist formerly known as Miss T, Michelle Van Ornum, Kevin Vansco, Isabella Vera, and Carrie Wright. Thank you all. Please continue.
Thank you. And that leads us to, again, our appreciation for having this time with you all. Thank you, Marina and Emily. They took the crux of the presentation. I met with them twice, and they asked for, can we actually take goals 1 through 5? Sure, take it away. I appreciate them. They're very poised, and our future leaders are standing amongst us. So thank you very much. Job well done. Questions and comments from the
Speakers,
board?
please be comfortable if you'd like to take a seat or whatever. I know that you've been up there a while, but let's start off with our student representative. Questions and comments, please.
No questions. I just like to say that I believe this is a really comprehensive plan, and I really congratulate everyone who worked on it, on creating something so necessary and wonderful, and I think will really push our district forward. Thank you.
Immediate past president Taxoni.
This is a huge document to tackle and incredibly important. So I do want to thank all of those people for being willing to put in so much time and thought and effort. I want to thank the two of you for being here tonight and being ready to present. You guys did a beautiful job. So thank you very much for making everything so clear and being able to explain it to us in the way that you did. I appreciate it. So huge thank you to everybody involved. It's beautiful. So for a first read, it's absolutely beautiful. And thank you all for putting this together.
Vice President Mascon, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's a tremendous amount of work, and if you've been through the process, it can be quite draining as well. Especially after multiple days of working on it, kind of, I've been in a lot of them where they didn't go so smoothly. So sometimes a lot of emotions are involved, but thank you very much for all of your effort. I do have comments and questions as well. So to start out, we will need to create some sort of consolidated summary that's more digestible for the public. Obviously having the details available will be fantastic for those that want to dive into all that, but some sort of one pager that kind of lays things out that makes it easily digestible will be key if we want people to really understand what we're trying to accomplish. Two, if we're going to have a goal and a target, then we need to benchmark where it's at today with data, not with a look and feel, not with anything other than data. Data will need to set the target for exactly where each and every single one of those goals are. My opinion. Then when you provide updates to them, it'll be an update with data showing whether the needle is moved or not on that specific target. If you can't measure it properly, it may not need to be there, or it may need to be some sort of soft target that you're working on in general. But without data, we'll never be able to tell whether we're actually moving the needle on these items or not.
Thank you for the comments. If I could address both.
I have more.
Oh,
I'll keep going though. If you want to start with those,
we'll start with the first two.
Yeah.
In terms of the communication piece, I alluded to it in the presentation. We'll have a condensed abbreviated version of the updated strategic plan, of course, for community consumption, but then we'll hyperlink all of the details as well as the action items, deliverables, because that could go on for pages. And that will be updated when we update the quarterly reports to the board and the community in terms of what's in progress, what's not, what hasn't started, and what's ongoing. The second point that you made, and I appreciate that, that's why you mentioned, well, data, right? Where are we starting right now versus kind of the soft type of data where, you can't really measure, right? So the LCAP goals that we actually align to the strategic goals helps us actually achieve that. For example, in the LCAP, we have current truancy rate of, let's say, 8%. That's in the current existing LCAP plan. So, when we're talking about attendance, school climate, student achievement, truancy, positive attendance is part of that. The LCAP plan addresses in this current school year for that truancy rate to drop to 6%. So there's that alignment piece. Another example is we talked about community engagement and increasing community partnerships, right? That would align to student achievement. So we have the baseline data of 75% of the community partnerships. The desired outcome for the current LCAP plan for the 23-24 school year is 79%. So an increase of 4%. So instead of creating our own new metrics that may not align to the LCAP, we want to make sure that there is some kind of cohesiveness and alignment.
I think that's perfect. That's exactly the way that you would hope to see it. So setting those realistic targets like that. You mentioned this as a 3 to 5 year target, which I think is great. I think a lot of the community and family hear that and they go, my kid's going to start and end, in high school or in an area and not really see the effect of all these things. So while a 3 to 5 year target is amazing, you do have to break it down into smaller bites. So when we communicate to the community about what we're going to be working on, say over the next 3 months, it may be small bites of each one of those targets, but here's the items we're working on for the next 3 months. Here's what we expect the outcome to be for each one of those items. And here's the point that it addresses in the strategic plan, because that's a lot of stuff we're talking about working on. We will not get to it all in 1 year. There may be things on there we don't start for 2 to 3 years. And they may fall off the list when we redo the strategic plan in another year, if it's still relevant or important to us at that time. So deciding whether or not what we're going to work on over the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months will be critical for people to understand what this is actually going to turn into for us and how it will really truly affect them. Final point, what I would love to see that I feel like is missing in it is revenue. How are we going? I think everybody would love to see every child in our community that is in our addressable market attend our schools. And I didn't feel like there was much attention to that. I think if you do all this, people will want to be here, obviously, but there are not specific targets around increase in revenue and increase in ADA, which I think is required for us to build the sort of school district that we need and to achieve all these things. So I think adding that piece to it will be critical.
Thank you for that comment. We'll review the plan itself. There's some elements that actually tie in indirectly with ADA, but that's a point well taken. And then your previous comment about chunking it out per se in terms of the quarterly updates is quite important. Within the plan and the action items deliverables, there are some low hanging fruit that are currently in progress that could be reported out. There are some components that are ongoing or a future outlook, for example, facilities expansion. And I think we had that example up on the slides. So we'll chunk that out as we move forward with our quarterly updates.
It creates wins you can celebrate along the way as well, because you put a plan like this and without being able to go, okay, we're chipping away at achieving this goal and here's the ways we're doing it and the small tasks that move along to get us there, it just helps everybody stay tuned in and positive about what we're trying to get to.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll loop this all together at the end. It's gonna seem like I'm out in the weeds. I need you to all to understand what I look at in life. I moved out of my parents' house the morning after I graduated. I had no idea what I was doing. I went to work. I was a blue collar person at that time. You went out, you made money yourself, you supported yourself, and if you're smart, you choose car insurance over beer. So at the end of the day, my measure in life is, are you going to be able to support yourself? And one of you made an incredible comment that if there are some students that need additional supports, it's up to the rest of us that are self-sufficient and doing well to see to it. that is probably the most significant thing I heard in here because it describes your brand. When I started up here, I wanted the focus to be on kids. And then it was, let's get our brand name established in the market. I don't know how on earth I got to where I got today, including sitting up here where I work, what I do. It's just incredible. I've had people who are far more educated and had skill set that they shared with me. I'm going to end this in a few minutes by criterizing you two and where you're likely to go. And I'm going to go to Vegas and make some bets on it and make a bunch of money off of both of you. But here's how I measure things. I want to know that when you leave here, you have the opportunity to walk out in that world, and whether you're going to go to work at Green Giant Candy Factory driving a forklift that I did, or you're headed off to MIT, you feel confident enough to walk in and tell somebody, I can do this job for you. I am an ethical person. I am a quality person, and I'm going to give you an honest day's work. I don't know in California how the youth here compared to what the budget, what the economy is like, that you're going to walk out of your house at 18 years old and be completely self-sufficient. That is scary, much less even with the support your parents give you. By the way, kids, if you're being supported and supplemented by your parents, you have to ask yourself, what would my world be like without them? And take that a next step deeper. When somebody comes up to you that's at your school, that's an adult, and says to you, come on, you're better than that, you're bigger than that. Take a moment and recognize these people care about your outcome as an individual. Please always remember that. Here's the rough part for me. I've got somebody I called out, and I said, as the board president, I usually clam up and don't be Ken too much, but for Mr. Rowland to come in here, considering some of the meetings I've been through up here in the last couple of years, and have Mr. Rowland, who has undoubtedly affected kids. By the way, I just measured, how many of you kids can say, you're young adults, I don't mean to offend anybody, it's just me, don't expect much, but how many of you for year after year after year look back at Larry Rowland and say, hey, you know what? That guy changed my life. And he's in here thanking our superintendent with whatever is in here. That is our brand. That is what's going to bring students in. I can't send out marketing. I have districts. I won't point at anybody, but somebody's district sends me postcards asking if my kid's going to go to their school. Was my kid at your school? That's the first indicator. Don't steal my kids. They don't want to go nowhere if it's right here. And this is the kind of stuff that makes it right. I'm going to read this into and if you're the board president, you get the guy at LACO that's the financial guy who's about as sterile as a laboratory telling you, oh, you have to pay attention to how you're spending money here. You better pay attention. Everything that I'm being told we need to watch is the stuff that's making us successful here. So I'll need that later when I read it. But without the grants, without people taking the extra step, I'll sign that for you later. At any of these things, we don't have the money to do what we do, but we still find a way to do it. And that's the grants and that thing. Okay. It's difficult for me in my work environment. I have to be highly effective because my personality doesn't lend well to anything. The first thing I want to tell you too, I have never heard either one of your names in that room back there. That is so painful because when I get decisions dropped in my lap and these people with kids and we're looking at very rough circumstances, I watch lives be ruined. And of course, there's all these rules that we have to follow. I have never heard anyone that is associated to either of you in that room. That is significant. Clap for these kids, please. The next thing, IT, please get a copy of their part of the presentation to them in digital and on CD. I want you to have that. I want you to put it on your applications to anything you do into the future. Because here's a problem. How many people were on that list who's a math whiz. There were 4 people reading. We each read 7 names. There you go. I'm not that dumb. Anyway. Where I was going with this is this, you take all of those people, some of them are very emotional, some of them are not emotional, some of them are financial wizards, some of them are prom queens, some of them are, I don't know what the rest of them are. But you have all these people in the room and they're all highly polarized. They're all emotional. Some of them, like I said, so you got all of this. And the worst thing for me at work is to get a policy set by the city council I work for, because they're looking at things like, how do we maintain police? How do we maintain fire, our schools? What is really important to taking this place and keeping our market? And that's what's being done. But when you get all these people in the room, it's very difficult to have someone, much less 2 people, say, listen, I'm going to take everything you said and I'm going to bind it up. And I know some of it I don't believe in. I know some of it I would just throw away. But you 2 stand up here and represent the thoughts of others in a way that is positive, and you actually believe what you're telling me and you own it. And that is a very rare skill in the workplace. Take that one to the bank. Emily, you sat up here for a year. One of the year was very volatile at sometimes, but you sat through a complete budget cycle and an LCAP. So when you're up here talking LCAP, I know that you know what that means and how the county guys are telling us you're failing over here, you're failing over there. And you guys as students are actually part of the solution. Ms. Costan, everywhere I look, you're like the whole newspaper. The FEMA plan you worked on, all the stuff you've worked on, you need to sit down and look at what you've done and put your ego aside and pretend you're me, because I'm the best and I'll write everything down that I ever did. And it's the most awesome thing. No, but in seriousness, don't discount your service to your school, the other students. And if I were hiring someone and you 2 were the candidates and I watched this movie, I would have a hard time picking between the 2 of you. So what I'd have to do is ask you 2 to take a pay cut before you're hired, and I would get 2 for 1. But at the end of the day, guys, this is the measure of what we want you to take that one home. Now I want to talk about Miss Van Ornum. Again, my measure is, can you work? Oh, can you work? Can you support yourself? Are you still laid up at your parents' house at 30 years old playing some video game? Oh, no, I'm not talking about your kids. We know the answer. I doubt these 2 will be there either. But at the end of the day, here's what I look at. It's about self-stability, self-sustainability. What happens when you don't have self-stability and ability to maintain yourself? You're set up for chronic underemployment. You are set up with you're set up for chronic self-medication. When that happens, I have never known what to do about that. These programs that you're telling me about these supports, when I was a kid, mental health started when you were hauled away in the ambulance. Think about how archaic that is. But back to Miss Van Ornum, here's my measure. You can give me reports all day long. I went to 4, I have an employer that they actually think it's cool that I'm civilizing myself by going, they can't even believe I'm up here. But at the end of the day, I went to all 4, what were they called? Oh, that's nice. I call it a measurement standard, who's cutting it and who's not. And I will tell you this. I'm looking at predictions of who's going to be laying on somebody's couch when they're 30 years old. Can you tell me what percentage of the 5th grade class had a 3.5%? If you have a 3.5%, is that an indicator that in the future, you're probably going to be able to feed yourself and take care of yourself? I would say yes. So what percentage of Miss Van Ornum's 5th grade class had 3.5 or higher? Don't everybody lose at once. Well, you're disqualified. Huh?
60%.
You're low. You're terribly low. I don't even know who you are. I don't mean to insult you. I insult everybody, so don't feel slighted.
That's Jerry.
77%. That tells me that 77% of the kids will be gainfully employed if they can keep on the track that they're on right now. They'll go to school, they'll go wherever they're going. They know how to maintain their self. And they're not selling blank report cards to their friends with blank envelopes and writing their own grades and from people that had good handwriting. Where did that come from? Let's move on. We've got 3 more grades there. What is the, was that funny? What is the percentile for the whole school of 3.5% or higher? Does anybody want to guess?
72.
You're terribly high. Listen, anybody that's known me for a long time, when I say show of hands, do not raise your hand. Anyway, 63% of Miss Van Ornum's class, all the classes are 3.5 or higher. Now, that I have to find something wrong, right? Guess what's wrong? Ms. Van Ornum, would you care to share to us how many of those kids are in the exact same kids that start here and end here? Is that typically what happens?
So typically, in the time that I've been in this district, kids kind of start in kindergarten and, 75–80% of them are still with us and graduating by the time they get to the high school. Something that's happened in the last 4 years is we've had a lot of kids coming and going, and in reviewing data for our site, more than 50% of the students in the 8th grade were not in our school in the 5th grade.
Think about that. Why are they coming to our school? We're capturing our market, that's why. So you're not only taking your local kids when enrollment's dropping, but you've got people that go to other schools. Parochial schools, charter schools, whatever is a good fit for you, that's great. But at the end of the day, if you are cycling kids who are coming in here from somewhere else and you're still producing these numbers, that tells me that not only are you on track to put adults out on the street, and this was really important to you guys up here. I noticed that is put people out on the street when they get out of school that aren't scared to go on to school, or who aren't afraid to walk in and know how to sell themselves. You guys are exemplary. Exemplary. I think that's it. Thank you. I'll loop one more time.
I don't have anything extra to say.
Sorry, I have one more.
That was the best
I know.
Valentine card of my
I know.
life.
Thank you, Ken, for that. That was all the things I wanted to say.
Why be nice? Anyway, finish this up. Let's go.
Was one more thing that I would love to see sitting on top of this strategic plan. And it's a very simple brand promise. That is an easy 1 to 2 sentences, maybe 3 at the most, that you can tell someone about our school district and say, what are you all about? Why should our kids go there? What is that? It's almost like an elevator pitch, right? You got 15 seconds. And tell me what you're all about. What is the brand promise? What can I look to as a student to point back to in a very short way to go, here's how I treat others. As a teacher or staff member here, what can I point to as a way that I need to interact with everyone around me? And what are you going to get when you're here? What's the result of it? And it's a brand promise. What is our brand, and what is that promise that we're?
Thank you,
Go ahead.
Mr. Mesco. If I could just address that very, very briefly. In the next steps, and part of the communication plan and communicating the approved strategic plan, we've taken, as the development team and the writing team, we've taken some of the common themes, and we're going to go ahead and yes, another survey, but we're going to go ahead and push out those common themes for certain taglines that would be the brand promise that will develop out of this strategic plan. So that's forthcoming. And then we'll be unveiling that to the board and to the community soon. So
So to
Thank you for that.
piggyback off of him, here's what this looks like. When you are filling an application to go to work in a school district, before you start holding your hand out, you tell me in the questionnaire, where do you fit the brand promise? Where do you fit the strategic plan? How are you going to emulate the goal, whether you're going to be a classroom teacher, an aide, a coach? Where is it that you have a personal buy-in? That's where it starts. And then I nail them with the same question in the first panel, and then I hit them again with the same question, and I pump that all the way through. Are you here to collect a paycheck, or are you here to take the individual skills that each one of us is born with as an individual on this earth? No one is like you. No one will ever be like you. No one has your potential to accomplish things you will accomplish. So if you're going to come in here and you're going to take our best minds as an employee, you need to understand why you're here, and you need to tell me why you're here. Aren't you glad that we went around again? That's it. That's all I got. Thank you all very much.
And on behalf of Marina, Emily, and I, we want to thank the board for this opportunity. Thank you to the educational partners here in the boardroom as well as on Zoom. Thank you.
Great job, young ladies. All right, we're gonna rock and roll now. Item 8, correspondence, proposals and reports. The Adirap, please. Thank you, Tracy.
Tonight, I'm not sure. I usually give a little short section. It's a little bit longer tonight. Sorry.
Perfect, we need that.
Just. to
That's exactly
follow-
what we
Just
need.
to follow the trend, right? First and foremost, I want to give out a shout out to our amazing sped team here. They have had an influx of many students. They're working on all cylinders. And I just want everyone to know that they're an amazing team of teachers that they just keep saying yes, they keep taking it on. So I just wanted everyone to know that. VHS, our hardworking teachers up at VHS, knocked it out of the park yesterday with their 8th grade road show. That was done by Kayla Walker. Our staff, our VHS staff, hosted an 8th grade parent night to a packed house of parents. Parents were showing up. That's amazing. And then again, today, we had all our counselors go over to the 8th grade and sign all those kids up for their freshman year of high school. So a shout out to our counselors and Kayla Walker, and then all the teachers that presented last night at the 8th grade parent info. Before I even knew Mr. Rowland was coming up here, I was going to give a huge shout out to Mr. Rowland because of the performance they did at Universal over the holidays. And then he's also on February 1st hosting the 8th annual spelling bee. So yeah, that's kind of it's on my list, and I think it's amazing. He does a lot for our school, so he's a great asset to our school district. Our high school athletic director, Gina Botten, they got to bring their flag football team home to the nice new fields that our school district provided. So thank you for that. And they came in 4th. And then they also got to host that Turkey Bowl game with Meadowlark families and the High Desert. And I heard it was amazing because those Meadowlark kiddos came down the hill doing their little chant. I heard it was an amazing event. We also have a couple of our new employees over at High Desert going to Medal of Honor training this weekend. And then our Denise Seymour over at High Desert also recently took our 8th graders to the Museum of Tolerance.
So some pretty amazing things going on and some pretty amazing teachers stepping up for that. At Meadowlark, we have some amazing teachers who are thinking outside the box. They're non-Spanish speaking, they have Spanish students in their class, and they don't have an interpreter there the whole time. They're finding ways to communicate, they're thinking outside the box to be able to teach their lessons to those kids that just don't understand English, and they're learning with the kids because they don't know Spanish and the kids don't know English, and they're making it happen. And I just wanted to give a good shout out to them for doing that. And then our whole ADA team has decided to send 2 teachers from each grade, from each school to go to the GTC. Help me. Good Teachers Conference. I'm like, oh my gosh, I went blank. It's in March. And then our district was also kind enough to match the ADA funds to go in there. And so we'll actually be sending 12 teachers if we get them all to sign up. So thank you to the district, and thank you, ADA, for sending our teachers to that conference. That's it. That's all I
Perfect,
got.
thank you. B, CSEA representative.
Not this one. I don't have anything yet.
Student representative of the board.
Hi, thank you. I will start with Meadowlark. And I would start with their awards, but it's come to my attention that the ceremony is tomorrow, and I don't want to spoil anything. So you all should be there tomorrow for the Meadowlark Awards ceremony at 8:45. The list I have is extensive, and we want to share all those and share in their success. So this week, the elementary school has had the Great Kindness Spirit activities. So they had a whole spirit week. It started with favorite sports teams uniforms and crazy headgear day and favorite sunglasses, and it's continuing on forever, just for the next week, to show and encourage kindness throughout their school. The after-school reading and math tutoring starts on January 29th. The sessions will take place on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursdays for 1 hour after school each week. So that's a huge resource for students. Meadowlark was also awarded a PLTW grant for $4,900 to support professional development for 6 teachers from 2024 to the 2027 school year. The grant will allow teachers to participate in literacy-infused STEM learning for the elementary school professional development. The PD will explore strategies for strengthening literacy skills through STEM learning and experiences. Participants build knowledge and skills that increase their capacity to make connections between literacy standards and STEM skills. Participants will also apply what they learned to design STEM experiences that will integrate literary skills to support powerful cross-curricular learning for the middle school. Ms. Goldstein has completed her CTI introduction program and has obtained her clear teaching credentials. Mr. Rowland, again, shout out to him, had the fantastic bronze handbell performance at the Universal Studios Walk that we've heard about extensively tonight. The HDS Semester 1 Awards Assembly on January 18th and 19th was a great success. There were too many awards to list, but maybe one day. We are really proud of all the students and teachers that were able to make recognizing so many students possible. Medal of Honor speaker forum at the Reagan Library on February 8th is coming up. Students will be able to hear from Medal of Honor recipients in person, get books signed by them, and tour the Reagan Library. Ms. Van Arnhem and one board member have been invited to the VIP portion, which includes lunch with the recipients and a tour of the private quarters of the Reagan Library. We have been attending this event for 10 years, and this is the first invitation to the VIP portion, so it's a huge honor. Thank you to Miss Mary Bellen Alford Walsh. Hope I said that right. Marilyn, sorry. For her work as the lead trainer for the Medal of Honor Character Development Program and our High Desert campus. And we'd also like to thank the security guard, Ms. Barnes, for keeping the campus safe and having a great rapport with the students. For Vasquez, the roadshow was a great success, thanks to the ASB, the high school, excuse me. Thanks to the ASB class for working so hard to put together a fantastic event. Thank you to Ms. Owens's advisory class that worked with ASB when they were busy wrangling these 8th graders. And thank you to all the students who took time out of their day to represent either their class, club, or sports to give the 8th graders really valuable information for their upcoming freshman year. There was a FAFSA workshop organized by the counseling department. A presenter from COC came and gave valuable information about the new changes to the FAFSA application, as well as information about the Canyon Promise for students who are interested in attending COC. It's very valuable information. The newspaper is going great. We are challenging ourselves this February to put out our 2 regular editions and a special edition. The staff members are eagerly looking forward to receiving our own printer. The printer will allow us to create better and better publications every month before the paper even reaches our reader's hand. The junior class is working very hard for the anticipated winter formal dance taking place on February 29th. The theme Starry Night has been very popular among students, which is theme is the most important part since you are a teenager, I hope you know. There is a COC application workshop on January 20th during school for those who are interested in attending COC. So representatives will come and help our students make sure they have all of the information that they need. The sports are going fantastic. Soccer and basketball are making our school very proud. And students are on the edge of the seats wondering if we will regain the swim team that we lost last year. That's what we hope to find out that information very soon. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Superintendent Gold Standard Report.
Thank you. Tonight I'll be focusing on student achievement and student safety and connectedness.
Just a
Yes,
second.
sir.
I want to point out to everybody, these numbers were referred to in the presentation about the strategic plan. Whenever you see these numbers, it's been the practice for years that these numbers associate to the strategic plan. You're going to see an update of that, and the agenda item numbers will have a reference to the strategic plan. So whether it's finance, education, or whatever, in the future, if it doesn't fit the strategic plan, we don't want to waste our time talking about. Sorry for the interruption, but go ahead.
Thank you for that. So I'll start off with goal 1, student achievement. Last Friday, I know Mr. Falsgraf mentioned this in his board comments. I had the pleasure of attending the High Desert Schools Awards Assembly. Congratulations to students, parents, and staff. Students were recognized for their academic achievements for first semester, as well as attendance, efforts, athletics, and the Medal of Honor program. Congratulations to our Hawks. We're very proud of you. Job well done, Ms. Alford, Mrs. Van Ornum. Last Thursday, I was thrilled to be with a new building and construction trades program at Vasquez High School. The students had a very informative presentation by the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters on the unique opportunity of joining their apprenticeship program as a post-secondary option. We've been talking about vocational opportunities and pathways upon graduation and the graduate profile. This is one prime example. Multiple career paths were discussed along with varying compensation while they earn their license in the apprenticeship program. The apprenticeship program is 4 years. They earn their licensure while they learn the trade, and they actually get paid for doing this. So it's a very unique opportunity. So we look forward to expanding this offering at Vasquez High School for the following school year. Currently, we have 3 sections of building and trade construction. We're looking to actually expand that. So that's going really well. So thank you to Vasquez and to High Desert. Student safety and connectedness, goal 4. On December 4th, I attended the AV-SELPA CAC meeting as well as their parent education workshop, which followed the meeting. The topic was on emotional health for parents. Techniques of stress management were shared with the parents and participants. Some of these exercises were actually put into practice during the workshop. We participated in exercises which included, and I participated, visualization and breathing exercises for stress relief. I was almost relaxed, but it was difficult to do so with Mr. Fosgraf seated next to me, and he was providing comedy relief during the whole time of these exercises. So, just saying, it added to my stress.
I'd
No,
like
just
to
kidding.
call for a recess.
It was very informative. So thank you to the AV SELPA and the CAC for their continued support of district efforts and our special education efforts here at AADUSD. I'd like to provide an update to our grant application with the U.S. Department of Education. I've been providing updates and possible scope of work if we were awarded on November 30th. And I do apologize to everybody here as well as those who are on Zoom and our board. Because of the special meeting in December, I pushed these pieces to the January 25th superintendent report. So on November 30th, I was notified by the U.S. Department of Education that we narrowly missed being awarded the full service community schools grant. I was informed that our RFP, request for proposal, ranked quite high. Out of 110 maximum points allowed, we scored 105, 108, and 108 in each respective section within the grant application. Out of 281 applications submitted, the U.S. Department of Ed only awarded 30. I inquired about the next application grant cycle. The next application window closes on February 9th. The updated grant application with minor tweaks is ready to be submitted on February 9th. So we're keeping our fingers crossed for a second cycle. Now I'd like to provide a few updates to student safety measures. At High Desert, security officer from an agency has been assigned for prior to winter break. The officer is personable yet vigilant with her presence. We do appreciate her. A reinforcement of student supervision schedule during unstructured times such as recess and lunch is well underway. So thank you, Mrs. Van Ornum. Bi-weekly meetings are held with instructional aides and security officer along with the school administration. At Vasquez High School, we have 2 new security officers from a new agency. They're quite vigilant on campus, so we appreciate them and their presence. A VHS principal job posting is currently on EdJoin and other sources for recruitment. For the interim, Dr. Chamberlain is at Vasquez and making sure that she's visible and present. So we do appreciate Dr. Chamberlain splitting her time between Director of Ed Services and support to Vasquez. There's a reinforcement of their student supervision schedule, and daily meetings are taking place between IAs, security officers, and school administration. In addition, I'd like to commend Vasquez for their innovative daily practice called the Morning Huddle. The Morning Huddle, it's quite an extensive agenda. It consists of a review, and let me back this up a little bit. The Morning Huddle is comprised of the administrative team, TOSAs at Vasquez, school counselors, as well as the front office staff, and they do this daily in the morning. The Morning Huddle agenda consists of a review of key supervisory staff and their assignments for student supervision for that day. A review of students who need to be checked on via a check-in, check-out process. That's part of the PBIS effort. They conduct empathy interviews with identified students. They review the PBIS incentives on campus, students who are on safety contracts, as well as addressing students with attendance-related issues. So it's quite comprehensive. So thank you to Vasquez for that practice. Finally, we are pleased to announce that 30 of our instructional assistants from all 3 sites took part in a 2-day training called NCI, which stands for Nonviolent Crisis Intervention. Nonviolent Crisis Intervention. It's an intense 2-day course. The benefits of the training include minimizing physical interventions, recognizing and responding to defensive student behaviors, understanding what's behind the defensive behavior, which is critical, as well as addressing the needs of each individual student as they come up. I will continue to update our school board as well as our community with ongoing safety measures as it pertains to our students on all 3 sites. Thank you. This concludes my report.
Are there any comments about anything the superintendent had to say? No. I don't recall hearing about this huddle. Is that something since Ms. Chamberlain came around?
Dr. Chamberlain has actually put this into, place at Vasquez High School, and it's been going on prior to winter break. Dr. Chamberlain, would you like to address the morning huddle and how that came about? Thank you.
I was told I needed. Thank you.
You were just told that you brought a very innovative and effective program to Vasquez High School, and I thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. First, I want to thank our district because that came from us going to the restorative practices conference that we went to in San Diego earlier prior to this. We went last year, was a much smaller team, no one from our sites. This year, we were able to take some of our leadership team from our sites, and just that collaboration together kind of brought the morning huddle to life. We saw it happen there. We saw them do it, and we're like, this would just be really helpful. It closed so many communication gaps for us. So as a team, it's just helped, especially since I'm splitting my time. It's helped so much. So I check in every day. We have the meeting it's just great. It's been just really, really great. So, but thank you for the recognition. We appreciate it. I know High Desert is doing something similar too. And moving forward, we'll continue to kind of collaborate together and create these systems together at all of our sites that support our students and our staff.
What's really important to me is the kids that are, there's somebody saying, you need to check in with me every day. And it seems like they're being dogged, but they'll look back and say somebody cared enough to make me significant, feel good about myself. So I didn't pull pranks and be a, clown or engage in behaviors just to let somebody know I had some value somewhere. I believe that the training was offered by the Antelope Valley SELPA.
That's right.
Wonderful. The CAC over there has a person coming in that is a mediator. It's going to be a really good program. If we could get some information out about that, that would be specifically Jason Harper. I believe that's it. Let's move on to submissions.
This evening, we do have one submission from the Assurance Learning Academy. We were notified of their need for a site relocation based on their current facility unavailability. So that may be considered in the near future. Thank you.
That said, comments? We are going to have quite a few different charters coming in. I know that we have a great oversight program. Some of the stuff that is a material revision is going to be something like my lease ran out, I need to move, stuff that really is a no-brainer when it comes to the educational program that's being delivered. But we've got to really pay attention because there's some people out there who don't like having kids going to school. Shutting a charter down is a quick way to run your enrollment up. And so when attorneys are looking at things, they've got the direction to make sure that everything is out in open light. And if I'm a charter, I'm using this opportunity to address the issue succinctly and focus on exactly what the issue is and not open it up to, a whole purview of things that don't need to be addressed, but use the opportunity to celebrate your success. Just don't carry on too long. Thank you. Let's move on to the consent agenda, which is items A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. That's it.
I'll move it.
Personally, move it in.
I'll second.
I would like to pull items H and I for separate discussion. Are there any questions about items other than H or I?
I just have a change to item C, the minutes.
We'll pull item C as well. Anything else? Let's vote on the consent agenda excluding items C, H, and I. Call the question.
Cameron,
Brianna Texoni, I.
Aye.
Fallsgraf, I. Brianna, could you tell us what you want to talk about with item C, please?
Yes. On number 5, closed session, under the comment section, it starts with Mrs. Taxoni, thank Mr. Falsgraf, blah, 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 blah. It says while she was a VP, she sought guidance from Mr. Falsgraf. I just want to clarify that I was not VP, I was president. So I just wanted the minutes to reflect that. Simple
Call.
change, thank you.
Can we do that? Good. Call the question on item C.
Cameron,
Brianna Texoni, I.
Masco and I.
Fallsgraf, I. I would like, the reason I pulled items H and I, would you tell us a little bit about these donations that are coming from the community?
Yes, absolutely. So items H, Acton Ace Hardware donation in the amount of 200, as well as the Acton Nursery donation of plants for value of 200. These both are action items for consent. They were generous donations, again, by each respective organization group, for the Meadow Lark Garden Club.
Perfect. Thank you, local vendors. Call the question, items H and I.
Cameron,
Brianna Texoni, I.
Masco and
Fallsgraf, I. Moving along, let's get into the personnel action report. Motion, please.
A motion.
I. Second.
So as an action item, it is recommended to approve the PAR with its amendments as stated earlier. Thank you.
Questions?
Good question. I do have questions. There's a couple of things that I'm unclear about, so I just wanted to clarify. First, there's a position where it says that we request to approve ratify employment for the instructional assistant at VHS on 12/8. And then the same person, instructional assistant for 5/7/5 on 1/9, and then they also resigned on 1/9. And I just would like clarification in the minutes. Is this person, did they get hired and then resign for a job and then get hired again for the other job? What are their dates? What's happening there? Do you know who I'm talking about?
Do we want to push the personnel action item down the road and not approve it and let the board member take this offline where it should be?
I would just like clarification
Sure.
in the minutes so that when we go back to it, I don't want it offline. I want it in the minutes so that if for some reason somebody has to go back and clarify,
For record.
we need to know for the record what happened.
So the acceptance of the resignation for the employee mentioned for instructional assistant at Vasquez High School. They put in for their resignation once there was an opening for the SPED 5.75 position within SPED umbrella. That's the ratification of that employment for this instructional assistant after she put in a resignation as a general instructional assistant at Vasquez High School.
So she was hired on 12/8 and then changed positions on 1/9, and so
Correct.
she is still an employee.
Correct.
Okay. Would that fall under the request to approve ratify change in position that's just below that? That section of the PAR?
The third section of the PAR.
So then
it
we
can.
have her in the, so I just want to make sure that when we go back, I've gone back several times to the PAR report. I just want to make sure that we can read it clearly in the future, when we're all gone, that somebody else can read it clearly.
Absolutely. For this purpose, we could go ahead and for tonight's PAR, we can move the instructional assistant SPED 5.75 down to the third section of the PAR, request approve / ratify change in position. if the board approves.
Thank you. And then my other questions were, the athletic appointments. Down where we have open positions, it specifies what site they're at, and some of them are obvious what site they're at. But some of them aren't, like the soccer, basketball, are those High Desert or Vasquez positions? Track and field, I know we don't have softball at High Desert, so that one's obviously Vasquez, but we do have the other ones at High Desert as well.
Thank you, Ms. Saxoni. From section 4 of the PAR, ratify athletic appointments, starting with head girls soccer, all the way to the assistant track and field, that would be for High Desert. And then for the JV softball coach, that would be Vasquez High School.
Can we please amend that?
Identify. Mhm.
And amend that to where we're putting what, where they're at? That would be great.
That would be correct. Thank you.
Maybe future ones, we can just add the location.
Yes, moving forward, we'll have the locations as well for athletic appointments. Thank you.
Is this PARS report substantially different than the one that was made available to board members for review last Friday?
Not substantially, different. The amendments were the, 4 amendments that I mentioned earlier in terms of additions. Beyond that, the formatting remains the same as what was reviewed by the board members.
So it's possible that the board members in the review of the packet before 9 a.m. Monday, at which point it flies to the public, didn't have the opportunity to look at what was amended this evening. Is that possible? And I am, just to cut to the chase, I am always very uncomfortable discussing intimacies of the personnel action report up here on the dais. I'd put myself out in the audience over this before. I won't do that as the president. And it's not my job to embarrass anybody, but this is beyond the board's capacity. So I'm going to suggest that we punt this one off this agenda and put it down the road to the next meeting. Is there anybody that is expecting to be hired that this will hang them up? Let's get this bunched up where we don't have these open air discussions of people's employment. I approved this agenda on Friday as the board president.
This, I apologize. This part could actually be pushed to the February 8th board meeting.
So now I'll ask the board, there's a motion on the floor to move the PAR agenda to the next meeting. Do I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
I'll second.
Wait a minute, is clarification, does the student rep vote on this? Okay,
She does not vote, but a student rep can motion. She can motion in second, she just won't vote.
okay, so you want this moved to the next meeting, is that correct? Okay. Call the question.
I actually have a question. Is there a reason why with those changes that we can't vote on it tonight? Are there any other changes that we're expecting?
Well, I am comfortable having the agenda in front of me as the board president, that I approve the agenda. And when it goes out to the board members, that the board members, if they have specific concerns, that they address those before 9 a.m. on Monday morning. And then it comes back and says that there's going to be, I am very uncomfortable having personnel action reports discussed in detail up here. It's very easy for people to start to think that the board runs the hiring and firing in this district. That's my problem. So that said, I'll call the question. There's a motion on the floor to move this meeting's part to the next meeting. We have a motion and a second. Call the question. Yay or nay?
No,
So you're going to vote no on on the motion.
I am comfortable voting on it tonight, so I will
So
vote no on the motion.
vote, okay, so you vote no, Lester?
Mascot eye.
I'll abstain. That puts it to the next meeting. Thank you. Next issue.
I thought that we were voting to push it to the next meeting.
We are. You voted no, he voted yes. I abstain. You don't have the votes necessary.
To push it to the next meeting.
But you don't have anything. It goes. to
Okay,
the
I'm very
next meeting.
confused. I was voting on pushing it to the next meeting. So a no vote says we don't push it to the next meeting. A yes vote says we push it to the next meeting. So that motion of pushing it to the next meeting did not pass, which means we vote on it tonight.
Okay, then we'll vote on it tonight. Go ahead.
Brianna Taxoni, aye.
Mask on.
Ballsgraf abstain. There we go. Same difference. That's how it works when you only have 3 board members. Sorry. Should we keep doing this over and over?
Sure.
We'll get our businesses done addressing superintendent behind the scenes on personnel action reports and sensitive things. Like I said, I approved the agenda. My question was, were there changes that weren't available to board members? The answer was yes. So next time we'll make sure that the personnel action report is complete and there aren't changes on it. I asked if there's people hung up that could be hired that are sensitive. The answer was no. File a complaint if you don't like my actions. Next, declaration of public hearing of ATA's initial contract for negotiation according to Government Code Section 3547. This is a hearing that will open at 8:56 p.m. I don't know. So let's have a motion to discuss this. Yeah, I'm lost too. I don't think we need a motion. This is a hearing. This is a public hearing. Go ahead, introduce it, please.
10C as well as 10D will be considering as an action item to approve the ADA's letter for reopeners for negotiation for the 23-24 fiscal year via the CBA, as well as our response to ADA and in terms of our proposal to ADA for the 23-24 negotiations through their CBA. Thank you.
Are there any public comments or any other discussion?
No public comments.
We'll close the hearing at 8:57 p.m. Next is Acton Agua Dulce Teachers Association proposal for 2023-24 negotiations for collective bargaining agreement. Can I have a motion?
A motion.
So
This item is an action item. We recommend for the school board, our trustees to accept ADA's letter to reopen negotiations for the 23-24 fiscal year. Thank you.
Discussion? Call the question.
Cameron, I.
Brianna Taxoni, aye.
mask on.
Ballsgraf, aye. Item D, Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District proposal for negotiations according to Government Code Section 3547. Can I have a motion?
A motion.
Second.
Again, an action item. In turn, we recommend that the board approve the district's proposal to ADA for the 23-24 CBA.
Discussion? Call the question.
Cameron, I.
Brianna Taxoni, aye.
Mask on.
Ballsgraf, aye. E, First Street, Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District Principal Job Description. Do I have a motion?
No motion.
I'll second.
This is a first read item. As a first read item, last year we asked our principals to take a look at the current job description for for principalship, which was updated over 10 years ago. They provided their input, and what you see before you as attached to the agenda item is an updated version. They reviewed similar job descriptions from neighboring districts, as well as updating two main sections, qualifications, as well as responsibilities. Thank you.
Is this an action item?
It's informational first read.
Good, okay. I suspect that everyone will look it over very carefully and will vote on it at the next meeting. I would imagine that this may affect any superintendent job that's being recruited for either now or principal job that's either being recruited for now or in the future. 11.
I have a question on that. Is that okay?
Yeah,
On the part where it says recommended qualifications, first, my very first question when I read this was how were the principals, were they able to put their input? So you already answered that, so thank you. How will this affect our current principals? Does it affect our standing principals in any way?
Not our existing principals, no. This will impact future recruits for that position.
Okay. And then on recommended qualifications, it says recommended, and then there's a couple of them that say required. So that was, is that typical to have required qualifications under the recommended category, or is it possible to pull those out and do required qualifications and recommended qualifications in two different sections?
Thank you, Ms. Taxoni. Actually, I've seen it happen both ways. Of course, having it, separated into two sections, recommended qualifications and required qualifications may help clarify things for a candidate.
That's not a directive, but that was just something that I saw when I was reading it through.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Lester. Following that line of reasoning, are we basically saying we want this, but if we can't get that, we'll take this? Is that the intent?
Not necessarily. Good question, President Falsgraf. Many times the job description will say in lieu of this qualification, we would take 3 years of experience within. That's just one example.
So they say, for
Sometimes it's worded in lieu
example,
of.
my brother-in-law or somebody, I'm trying to push him through to you guys, then you could say, well, it was desired you had this, but the other person besides you being the board presidents, blah, 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 they actually have this. Just ignore that for the ignorance it was, but this is a touchy thing for me. Here's a moral of the story. When you hire somebody and they blow it, I don't look for them, I look for you, okay? I'm sorry that sounded so rude. Moving on. Anything else? So this is a first read, we'll see it. So moving on to educational and pupil services. Item A, Point Loma Nazarene University School of Education Student Teaching Clinical Practice Partnership Agreement. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
I'll second. Go ahead, please.
And this is an action item, so we recommend approval of the agreement between the district and Point Loma University. This agreement will make the district a cooperating school district for student teaching interns. Thank you.
Questions? None here, call to question.
Cameron, I.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Mask on.
Falsgraf, aye. B, Loma Linda Nazarene University of Education Field Work Placement Agreement with Cooperating School District. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Again, an action item related to the cooperative agreement. We recommend moving forward with a Point Loma University Fieldwork Placement Agreement, which provides general terms for placing their students as student teaching interns here as fieldwork candidates. Thank you.
Discussion? Nothing here, call to question.
Cameron, I. Brianna Texoni, I.
Mascot.
Falls Graph, aye. 12, Business Services, a letter from Los Angeles County Office of Education, LACO, regarding first interim certification. I have one. If you'll give us the briefest introduction, I will read this in its entirety. And then, prior to board member comments, I will ask you to, give your presentation. Thank you. This is from our business services consultants. It's been assigned to us from the Los Angeles County Office of Education. What this does is Kevin, please frame what this letter means before I read it.
Sure. So as part of, apologize for that. As part of AB 1200, which is the oversight of school districts, the county office reviews the district's interim certifications, the positive, qualified, or negative certification of both their first and or second interim. And they have to certify whether our personal certification is true, or they could say otherwise. So that's what this letter is confirming, that they have positive, that they concur with our positive certification that was approved at the December 19th.
Okay, it's not my intent to comment, but I want everyone to listen very carefully, pick out your area of expertise, think about the things that you have done to advance this district in the face of not having enough ADA funding to make this work, remembering that this district was completely dependent on charter funding a few years ago, and we have gotten a lot of grants. I want you to hear what I read. January 11th, 2024, Mr. Ken Fallsgraf, Board President, Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District 32248 North Crown Valley Road, Acton, California 393510. Dear Mr. Fallsgraf, pursuant to Education Code Section 42131, the Los Angeles County Superintendent of Schools, County Superintendent has completed our review of the Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District's 23-24 first interim report. Our analysis of the data provided indicates that the district should be able to meet its financial obligations for the current fiscal year and subsequent 2 fiscal years. Therefore, we concur with the district's positive certification and offer our comments and concerns below. Negative ending fund balance. In our letter dated October 16th, 2023, regarding our review of the district's 2022-23 unaudited actuals, we noted that the 23-24 adjusted ending fund balance for special reserve for capital outlay projects, Fund 40. Let's stop for a minute there. What is Fund 40?
Fund 40 is again for capital outlay, which would mean major projects that would fall outside of the general fund.
Would the high desert redo of the field fall under Fund 40?
That would, yes.
That's just one example.
Correct.
Thank you. Was projected to be at a negative $23,000. While we're here, what was the value of the high desert project off the top of your head?
It's approximately, I believe, 90 to 100,000 off the top of my head.
Okay, so without the $23,000 in a fund balance transfer, would you have been able to do that project?
No.
So our teams would have been left to play on the gopher infested field that was there, and we would not have an improvement and facilities for our soccer program, which is exploding. Am I characterizing that properly? Okay. We requested the district make the necessary fund balance adjustment, budget adjustments in the first interim report in order to maintain this fund's solvency. Was there anything given to you by the county, particularly for redo of the field at the high desert?
I know those funds all come from the district.
Yeah, so your fund that was being characterized as insolvent, was the source of it was, I think, we were able to take some of the grants that we had and take that money and apply it to education, and not take money from education and do the field, and then not have students that go to our schools because we can't read and write because we are afraid to spend money I'm sorry, I'm doing this budget analysis this way, but it's very accurate. And reviewing Fund 40 in the first interim report, we note that the ending fund balance is no longer negative and is projected to be zero, which and it seems to be in everybody's mind when it comes to a field being redone, it's always supposed to be zero and we shouldn't do the field. But thank you for reporting out that Kevin did his job. Thank you very much. I'm taking a lot of liberty here, reel me in. Deficit spending, the district is projecting an operating deficit of approximately $768,000. That means we're spending $768,000, $768,000 more right now than we're bringing in funding that's typically related to ADA and the typical stuff that we get from wherever it comes from. So tell me, how did you get $768,000 that you did not have to spend, deficit spend?
Well, so we obviously have to pay all of our teachers and such. So there's all the expenditures of the district in the general fund. We also then have contributions to special education and routine restricted maintenance that have increased significantly from the adopted budget, which is also addressed later on.
But again, my question to you, I don't want to badger you, know me better than this. We're doing an exercise here so everybody understands the ridiculousness of this. And yeah, I'm taking on the County Office of Education right here. They're telling you that you overspent $768,000. So where did you get that money from?
And our ending fund balance.
That's because you saved money from last year. And all these grants we're talking about, did any of that factor into it?
Well, it could allow.
Yeah,
us to-
obviously, right, to the tune of $750,000. But thanks for pointing that out. They're trying to say that if we keep redoing our fields and we keep doing things and adding programs and redoing buildings in Fund 40, that we're gonna run out of money. What does that say about funding where it needs to be anyway? I hope they got a good attorney to shut me up. Representing 5.83% of the district's unrestricted general fund budget expenditures and other outgo for fiscal year 23-24. The district is also projecting operating deficits of 410 and 85,000 for the year, the coming years. So you're not just guessing that there's a bunch of people coming in here with no data that says. You're kind of talking about maybe Ms. Van Ornum bringing in 50% changeover and educating people's kids who can't be educated elsewhere, but you're not including those numbers in your projections for these years. Did you inflate your ADA to inform the 2 out years?
No.
Wow, that seems pretty honest, but yet somehow you're gonna overspend almost $500,000, which is that's pretty good. It's less over expenditures than whatever, but your over expenditures are going down in the out years.
That's correct.
Where's this money coming from?
Well, again, revenues from the state and us being able to make sure that our expenditures are in line.
But you're still fixing up buildings. I don't get how you're doing it. You must be getting people to work for free at night. I don't want to hear any labor issues about that. So according to our review of the district's first interim report, and as confirmed by the district, these projected deficits are primarily due to, this is going to light me up, rising special education costs and increased facility repair maintenance costs. Okay, show of hands. Who wants to pick on the special ed kids first? Or do you want to talk about our buildings being, what is the Williams report? Can you tell me what the Williams report is?
Well,
Go ahead.
yeah, sure. Yeah, the Williams report is to make sure that your facilities are in good standing, that you have proper instructional materials.
And we approved that tonight. I should have pulled it. How many complaints did you have about any of our facilities being? Zero. That, in my world, that means none, right? So you had no complaints about any facility, but yet you found the money to spend $750,000 on fixing them up so you can get a zero. So I don't know, let's just leave facilities alone. Let's pick on SPED. Rising SPED costs. Could you characterize what those rising SPED costs look like?
Sure. So the rising SPED costs from our adopted budget, we had about $2 million of a contribution to the SPED resource. We are now at 2.6 million. And the major reason for that is that the state and federal government do not provide us enough funding to properly fund the needs for those students. And so the local education agencies are forced to use their general fund dollars to fund that in the form of that competition.
And thus villainize special education and use terms like encroachment. So, the SELPA, giving training to how many people? 30, not 3. Is that free?
Through the SELPA, yes, but it still costs the SELPA dollars, so there's.
Well, they're probably encroaching on someone else's budget too, right?
Exactly, yep.
So does this school district have a life skills program for children who are likely to be institutionalizable by the time they're 18 years old? In other words, someone declares them to take over their rights as an adult to make decisions because they can't think for themselves, feed themselves very well, and make typical safety decisions. The answer is yes. My daughter is one of those people. Ms. Chamberlain, I hate to drag you into this, but do you have a life skills program at the high school? And you have someone there that's not focused on people learning mathematics beyond that they've plateaued at, but more how to communicate, how to make purchases, how to engage. I'm intimately familiar with this. Was that there 2 years ago?
No. It started last year. Last year was our year one.
Kind of like reflected in here, but you're impinging and encroaching by making programs that don't just put kids out on the street to feel bad about themselves. Like I said, I'm taking a great deal of liberty here, but I don't care. They're primarily due to, as special education costs, increased facility and maintenance costs. So do you want to cut the life skills program, or do you want to let the paint lay off the building? You know what? I used to work for casinos, and back of the house is important where the employees are. If you look, y'all painted them buildings back there that nobody can see from the street. Why would you do that? You could have saved like, I don't know, $10 not painting them, right? You guys really got to work better on decreasing employee morale. While the district projects it will continue to maintain the required level of reserves, deficit spending should be monitored so it remains maintainable to prevent further erosion of the fund balance. So what do y'all think we should do? Yeah, good. Don't answer that, please. Keep doing what you're doing. This is why your reserve level is high. Special education cost, but now we're going to get into details. The district's contributions to restricted programs are submitted in the 2024-23 24 first interim report are projected to increase substantially compared to the last adopted budget. The increased contribution primarily due to education program expenditures. We remain concerned about additional financial strain the increased program expenditures have on general fund. Does a copy you have give the county's suggestions on how exactly we would accomplish that? Did I get half the report? Okay, so who knows about Darien, Connecticut, where they brought in a SPED director that said they adopted this thing called regional trend. So regional trend is this. This school district over here has 7.3 speech language pathology students per 100 and blah, blah, blah. So what the scam is they would actually tell the staff, if you see a kid, what is the staff's responsibility if you suspect a kid has some type of need that be supported? It's called federal child find law. So what these people would do is say, oh, we're already at the limit for autism. We're already at 10.1%. So you don't identify. Is that federally legal in a program that's never been funded beyond 25%? So guys, what do you think? Should we just look for light speech impediments on the kids that are coming here? You know what? Don't put the alarms on the bus where people go by. I noticed you're winning clean bus awards. Yeah, forget about that switch where somebody has a frazzled day and they forget about the kid that's in the back of the bus. Maybe we can cut out some of that. Though what bothers me is that we are making such strides. Our teachers union rep came up here and is congratulating us. We're having people congratulate us within the strategic plan and all kinds of things, but yet they're being attacked here. But somehow you come up with the money. Labor contract negotiation. Oh, this is a good one. Ready? According to our review of the district's for entered by certificate and classified labor contract negotiations remain unsettled. Unsettled, we haven't done them yet, right? And potential changes have not been calculated, incorporated in projected salary and benefit expenditures. Excuse me, I don't see a turban on your head and a magic ball that will predict the future. Do you know what you're going to agree with in good faith negotiations with your teacher and classified unions yet?
No.
So how could you project it? Okay. As a reminder, before the District Board of Education takes any action on proposed collective bargaining agreement, the district must meet the public disclosure. These are the sunshine laws, right? So I remember tonight seeing for both associations, sunshining what they want to talk about. The district is sunshining what they want to talk about. So I don't understand this. Maybe you can do better about guessing and telling them what they. So the document is used for blah, blah, blah informational purposes. So in other words, whatever we agree to in my world at work, you make agreements. And this is why I don't get involved and you see me get all out of control when somebody talks about, we're going to work with your negotiation. That team and this team work to negotiate. I have never seen anything come to impasse. I have never even thought twice about anything. I've been up here so many times. And everybody always seems to come together with a respectable decision. And that's what will happen again. I am sure of it. And then we'll release it to the public. But in my world, once that's agreed to, the public gets to come in, and that could be anyone, and just say, no, I don't want to pay this. And we have to, as part of his side of it, and the superintendent say this is sustainable, because if you agree to something just to make friends, the county will reject your budget. Cash flow. I'll leave that one for Lester. Charter school oversight. I've always said this. Think about the exposures we have in our school and think about the charters that are out there. And the charters aren't bad people, but you can get somebody out there that's looking to make a move on somebody for a lawsuit, they're around. And a poor oversight system makes us and our district and everything we're working for responsible for any debts that arise from there. So we know that, we've known that for a long time. So they make some budget adjustments. The district's first interim report is projected total general fund expenditures of 20,924,694, which exceeds the current board approved budget of this. So is this the part where we condemn you for having extra $2 million laying around? Is that what I'm supposed to do, right? There's a reminder, the governing board must approve budget adjustments, grant necessary authority for higher expenditure program. So I guess that comes with the final budget approval, right? I mean, one of the former students or one of the students understood that. Conclusion. I guess you can ask them questions. Sorry guys, but I really needed to do this once. I do it every year when I'm the president, and this is the messaging that our staff gets. It's very sterile. It's talking about this number is supposed to be 1 and it's 2, and there's very little look at what's really going on at that school or that facility. Are they headed in the right way? Or are we just supposed to roll up and go with the ADA we had? What if we hadn't had staff that was out there getting the grants? We would be doing layoffs. We'd be teaching nothing but the very basic stuff, and we would not be capturing our market share by being a good educational marketplace. Board members and student rep, I'm sorry I've taken this liberty. I will have no more comments or questions, but you are free to just let it roll. This is a very important item. Here we go.
I would love to understand their math on how they believe that we are projecting to spend $2 million more than what we had planned to, because that's, I didn't see that in the budget when I saw what you put out there. I don't have to say anything now, but that'd be interesting to understand their math. They didn't provide that, did they?
No,
Okay,
I just got the
I
letter.
think so. But many of the things they did point out that we're spending money on are, you could consider them to be static costs, whether we had, you could add 100 kids and those costs don't change. So it is interesting, you could draw from that we would help those economies of scale in those areas if we added students. Like more ADA obviously helps with a lot of those items and brings revenue without additional costs when those things happen. So I think you can pull some things out of it that are interesting to look at, and we need more students. That'll help. That fixes everything. More revenue fixes everything. But they did give us permission to basically create for charter schools to create a reserve based on their recommendation. We could create a separate reserve to place aside just for in case a charter school creates some sort of a problem for us. So just a thought there. That's all I have.
I do have a comment. Sorry, I'll be super fast. I just wanted to point out that the first paragraph, it says, we therefore concur with the district's positive certification. So all of the other stuff, sure, it's reading, but they concur with the district's positive certification. So that's what we're looking for, and it's in bold print. So that's the most important part of this whole letter. And then also it says in the very last paragraph, we express our appreciation to the district staff for the cooperation during our review. And I just want to express my appreciation as well, because reading through something like this, as Ken pointed out, it's a lot, but I think those are the two main points of this whole letter is positive certification. Well done.
So Lester. Past, present tax zoning, was this letter substantially different last year when it had your name on it?
I actually don't recall off the top of my head. I have it in a notebook. I don't recall off the top of my head what.
Oh, so I can see you were extremely concerned.
Yeah, I mean, when it says in bold that we're good, then we're good. I trust you, and that's why we have awesome staff.
We don't
So,
care about how you're good until you're bad. Okay.
You're good. I think it's fantastic. You're going in the right direction, so.
So we totally hijacked your thing. Tell us what you want to tell us now.
Other than, I mean, she pretty much hit the nail on the head that the county's confirming that we have a positive certification. Some of this other stuff to me, I read it, but it's very, like you said, sterile. And we're constantly looking at our own budget. We know our budget better than they do. So that's just my 2 cents if I had to put any. So
Probably a form letter.
yeah, that's actually, I only do a budget on 4 pieces of paper. No, I'm kidding, but that's it. Again, this item is informational only. It's just to let you know that this has been coming. So thank you very much.
And again, how much revenue did you take in off of charter schools this year? Perfect. Okay, we'll close the discussion on that if everybody's comfortable. This was an information item. There is no, what do you call it? Okay, B, clean bus rebates program, school board awareness certification.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
I'll defer to Mr. Vensko.
Sure. So as kind of stated in the agenda items, we did apply for electric bus grant earlier in August of this year. Unfortunately, because we didn't get that round of funding. However, there is another round of funding that is open and is closing next week. We are working with the same vendor that we worked with prior, and a part of the new requirements, because some boards were unaware that their staff were going to get these funds, they are requiring the district to present this certification to the board so that you guys are aware that we are going to get funding for our electric buses. So that's part of this, and just another point of this. There's actually, for the electric buses, there's actually 3 different grants that we're looking for to be able to, 1, provide the buses, 2, provide the infrastructure, i.e. the chargers, and the third part of it is the from the Edison. So the first 2, the charger and the transformer stuff has been already approved. This is now just for the buses. So we're waiting for that piece.
I do have a comment. I think this is absolutely fantastic, and I know it might not be the most important thing to some people, but this is great, and I'm really happy about our electric.
This is great. I agree. I concur.
I assume you've done the impact studies on costs of ownership over time versus the regular vehicle?
Correct. Yeah, I reviewed that with our outgoing coordinator transportation when they first came out.
Service life and all that comparison.
It's a little different because there's still a lot of data that's we've yet to see. So that will be kind of the piece of it, but that we will have to learn as we go. I am reaching out to other districts that do have these buses. AVSTA has, I believe, 10 electric buses, and Sulphur Springs has another fleet. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I have been in contact with both of their chief business officials and did some cost analysis and then gotten the pros and cons of both sides. So we have taken that into consideration.
Is it a near thing or is it?
It's in terms of
like the, say, 10-year cost of ownership?
It's probably about the same. I mean, except your range is different. That's kind of the thing. That's where you really get hurt is the range, but we do have our solar panels that were put up. So that kind of cuts down that cost of the electricity itself.
So I'll end this by saying, forgive my ignorance, I thought this was actually keeping the bus clean so it can be muddy. And so 2 questions, is it going to storm and get cold? And does the bus have this on it?
No, it doesn't.
Wonderful, thank you, moving along. So this is an action item. Call the question.
Cameron, I. Brianna Texoni, I.
Mascot.
Ballsgraph, aye. Yeah, I guess I did want to be president. Let's go with it anyway. Governor's budget update. Yeah, let's do that.
Almost.
I'll second. This is an information item. This is not an action item.
That is correct.
Go ahead.
Okay, so hello again, good evening, everybody. This is going to be a presentation on the governor's 24-25 budget proposal. I got just a kind of shout out to School Services of California who provided some of the information that's in this. It's kind of a collaboration. So we're going to go on tonight. We're going to go through the budget. If you want to go down to the next. So state budget process, kind of how it goes. Just for those that are unaware, we'll talk about what the governor's main budget themes were, and then what does it mean for AAD USD, and then kind of the next steps, and we'll open up for any questions that the board may have. Okay, so January 10th is the constitutional date that the governor has to provide his first budget proposal for the upcoming fiscal year. This, if I had to put it in a visual, is like having a big blank wall and the governor takes a dart and says, okay, the budget is somewhere there. And this starts the process of the legislatures to hold budget hearings and hold public information sessions to see whether that the governor's proposal is, meets the needs of the state. So that basically from January to May, they will kind of hold these information sessions, get information from the Department of Finance, and then the legislator analyst office. I apologize, a little late. But essentially they go through the budget, do their thing, and then the governor comes out on May 14th with the May revise. That's going to be our next piece. That's going to be the more concrete data of what we will use when we go to the adopted budget. And then in June, the budget has to be passed by the legislature by June 15th. and the governor must sign by July 1, otherwise they start losing their salary. They actually don't get paid if they don't pass a balanced budget by July 1. That was something that was, I can't remember the prop, but I believe it was about 10 to 15 years ago that they passed that, but the voters passed a law that required that. Then after
Carrie.
then after that, the July and beyond, there are budget trailer bills. Essentially what happens during that point in time is they will either adopt any like additional language for like if they have rules that they had something about the budget adoption, but they didn't have that. So it kind of is a long process, but basically, as I mentioned today, we're just at the starting point. What happened and what is in the governor's budget today will be definitely very different come May. Moving along, so the governor's big themes. So I know we all heard in the news, there was a $68 billion budget deficit from the legislative analyst's office, and now the governor's saying, well, it's only 37.9. I talked with school services and the other state agencies. Essentially, it's a different way of looking at it. Well, the legislative analyst has a different way of calculating their deficit versus the governor. The legislative also was out about in December versus the governor's in January. So they had one more month of data to project. Ultimately, this is all due to the deferral of the tax collections from normally April 15th all the way till actually it was supposed to be October, and then they pushed it again a month to November. So that is why there was such a big deficit from what they had from prior year revenues. So one of the biggest things that has impacted is that when we look at Prop 98, which is the funding for our schools, they look at the Prop 98 in 3-year chunks. So they look at prior year, upcoming year, and the following year. And so what happened is because there was lower than projected revenues, the Prop 98 guarantee actually has a $12 billion deficit per se that they have to deal with. What I will say is that the governor has put it out, and good for him, that he's not going, his plan is not to go after education, and he will use other means and methods to not take back or claw back those dollars that have already been paid out to schools. So that's one big positive in this negative deficit area that the governor has kind of kept education whole in that sense, and they're not taking any money back. Some of the other two pieces, real quick, is that they recognize that the education profession is, we're still having trouble finding teachers. So we're trying to make efforts to make it a little bit easier, reducing requirements of testing, trying to make it a little more streamlined. And then again, looking to try to get to those students that were impacted by COVID-19. So that's a big, honestly, this budget, I'll be honest with you, I've done budgets for about 8 years now, I think. And this is probably the easiest budget, as much as it being that it's a, it's not the happiest budget, but it is an easy budget in the sense that there's really only COLA and no real new proposals to programs or anything. No major one-time programs as there have been in years past. So COLA, I mentioned COLA. So back in June of 2023, which was the adopted budget, we were actually looking at a 3.94% COLA for the 24-25 fiscal year. The governor has proposed 0.76. Now, COLA is a statutory calculation. It is basically a collection of data points, and that will determine what the COLA should be for the LCFF. Now, there's a caveat in that the legislation could determine a funded COLA versus a statutory COLA. I don't expect that at this point in time, but just as a point of reference. The other two piece of it, the one big piece of it I'll say is, one, we don't know what the final COLA will be, but what does that deficit of COLA mean for us? So based on that data, that going from 3.94 to 0.76, we're actually going to be losing or not getting about $430,000 next year in the LCF funding, and then about $530 in the following year. And in the third year out, we're looking at about just under $450,000 loss due to the lower COLAs for all 3 fiscal years. I'll kind of leave it at that. We'll build these particular COLAs into our second interim budget, which is going to come up on March 15th. I'll talk about that in a bit. So that's the one big piece, and I mentioned the other part of the budget. So if you scroll down, just some good pieces that the governor, I'll try to wrap it up and be quick, but the governor is making sure that we have our universal school meals is fully funded. There are no cuts. Again, I mentioned no cuts to education here, that they did not cut any of these one-time funds that were given to us. They did that prior years, but they did not plan on doing that this year. So good on that. And then again, the governor proposes some things to try to help with attendance loss. There's some stuff that's essentially working out, trying to regain your ADA, because ADA around the state has been typically between 4% and 5% lower than what it was pre-COVID. So that he's trying to work on trailer language or language that will help school districts mitigate that loss. And then he's really into this hybrid learning thought process. So he's actually proposing to put in $6 million to study that and how they can help support attendance via that method. Again, next steps, the legislature and both parts of the House and the Assembly will look at the proposal. They'll do their budget hearings. One piece of it is advocacy. You know, school districts are encouraged to reach out to their representatives and say what's troubling them so that they're heard. Again, second interim, I will be putting all the governor's January budget proposal into our projections for second interim. And then we'll wait till May revision and we'll go from there. An adopted budget in June, and we'll just keep on rolling. So thank you for that. And I'm opening up to questions if there are any.
Questions? Brianna? Here we go.
What percentage of our revenue is made up of state fund?
Our state funding is total state funding is probably about 90% is state funding. If you're just talking about LCFF, it's probably close to about 60 to 70%.
How much control do you have over what they do?
Well, we have pretty much no control. They tell us what we get. So yeah, the only control we do have is ADA. That's really our only piece of the pie that we control.
Okay, statutory COLA, what that means is like a region says based on that and this and this and this, the adopted COLA is kind of like what the Internal Revenue says about the mileage for the year. This is it. Does adopted COLA say, I just ignore that and I come up with my own COLA?
Yes, essentially, yes.
Right, and meanwhile, I've got people trying to negotiate on what they anticipate the COLA might be. And then you're being told, even though you don't know what the COLA might be, and if you actually establish the COLA and it's low, we can change it to make it, they're not gonna make it higher, you know that, right?
No.
Okay. It's my observation that schools close when the cost to run the school, the basic bottom line cost to run the school, the heat, you know, the stuff you have to do, even though you're gonna do no maintenance, have no complaints, right? Schools close because you can't meet bottom line costs of keeping it open. So when you can't meet that and you try to keep it open, then you're basically taking money from another school. And then that's where this deferred maintenance issue comes from. Now that you have a good reserve, are you happy that you're sticking money into the campuses, looking at what's coming?
Absolutely.
Knowing that the day is coming where your ability to do that and redo sports fields and stuff aren't. I'm very slow. But here's what I figured out. At first, when they started locking stuff up at the superstore, I thought they're on to me. They know I'm stealing those dishwasher tablets, right? Then all of a sudden it dawned on me, wait a minute. I have to get everybody to get me a key to get into stuff. And then what happens is, then people want to shop for me because I'm so burned out on waiting for somebody. I mean, my social security check will get here before I can get some Advil. So at the end of the day, even the people that are shopping for you, they don't have the key. Okay, so what does it have to do with, well, when we're pushing online school, sooner or later, I think that you learn, I don't want to go to the store, so they get rid of the floor space, and then you have all these big, what used to be shopping centers closing down. Is this what's gonna happen to public education?
I sure hope not. Truthfully, I really don't. I think in person is
I yell at my computer screen and it doesn't teach me anything. Yeah, I'm concerned about this, making it inconvenient for people to get in-person service. This whole idea that we're gonna change it, you've got to have somebody, the computer doesn't tell you that you're not doing well and here's why. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, D. Resolution 2023-2414, authorized use of remote teleconferencing provision AB 361. This is a monthly thing. What this provides for is in the event that we need to up here conduct ourselves virtually, that we can do that. I need everyone to understand, this is my first full meeting as a president of this year. I need everyone to understand that if you're gonna call in and you're gonna be at a motel somewhere, you need to post the motel. You need to let everyone know that you're gonna be at the motel. They can come in your room and they can watch you, so you're not on the phone with somebody else and having somebody text you and tell you what to say from up here. So every month, as long as we might have that need to do that, we vote on remote teleconferencing provision. So that said, do I have a motion?
A motion.
Second.
Anything to add to that? So are we going to approve our ability to be in a motel room and conduct our business? Call the
Okay.
question.
Cameron, Brianna Texoni, aye.
Mask on, aye.
Fallsgraf, aye. All right, the part we've all been waiting for. Board member comments, past president Taxoni. We already did that.
Okay, so I do have a bit, so I'll try to keep it under 3 minutes so that we can get out of here by 10. First, I want to do a shout out and a huge congratulations to Miss Candace Palacios. She's a teacher at Meadowlark. She is recognized as a national board certified teacher. I'm not gonna sit up here and pretend to know all of the ins and outs of what that is, but it's a big deal. I am told that there's only 3% of teachers in America that are able to hold that title. So National Board Certified Teacher, Ms. Palacios at Meadowlark, huge congratulations. That's a big deal. And beyond that, she's an amazing teacher. She's an amazing human being. She's a fantastic colleague. So congratulations, Ms. Palacios. We're definitely proud of you as a whole district. On that note, I'm going to go back to Mr. Rowland for just 2 seconds. I did open up this card that he brought. Everything that he does is just over and above. I was in Mr. Rowland's 6th grade class in 1992-93 school year. So it's been over 30 years. It was a long time ago. He addressed my card, Mrs. Taxoni, AKA Brianna Willard, number 37. He remembers my number from when I was in his class over 30 years ago. That's the kind of teacher he is. How cool is that? And then he has his signature little bear that he's been doing since, I'm sure, before I was in his class. The bear hasn't changed. He puts it on everything. I just wanted to point out how incredibly honored I am to get a card like this, how he remembers the things that he remembers. Such an incredible human. I was able to attend the ASMO show, the Christmas show in December that was held at Vasquez. And it was a collaboration between Meadowlark and High Desert students in the Vasquez gym, which is absolutely beautiful. it was an adorable little show, as always. Asmo did a fantastic job. I was actually able to, instead of watching the whole show, which I love, but I really love kids. So I was able to move into the library where they were doing their staging of the kids, where they had to keep them all corralled and busy. And there were TKers in there and the preschoolers and kindergartners. And then they just kept bringing all the way up to, I think, 4th and 5th graders came in there. We sat on the floor, we played Duck, Duck, Goose, we colored, we did all kinds of stuff. It was pretty fun. It was a really good night. I missed a couple of the classes, their songs. I saw the beginning and I saw the end. But it was definitely fun to get to hang out and play with little kids. I'm at a virtual junior high and high school now, and I see the kids that are in person at the school on the campus that I work at. But gosh, I miss those little kids. They are just a blast. So I did want to give a shout out to the instructional aide that was in the room. And I don't know if you can help me with her name. I believe it was Crystal or Kristen. And I'm a terrible human being for even forgetting her name. But I know when I walked in that room and this woman had like 30 4- and 5-year-olds, and some of them were crying and some of them were running around and some of them did not want to color and they wanted to do something else. The way that she interacted with every single one of those kids, huge shout out to that person, because it takes patience, and she was doing a fantastic job. So I just wanted to give her a shout out. So thank you for letting me go in and hang out with those kids. That was a good time. Vasquez Roadshow, I have heard several parents and students feedback on that, and it was a great time. It was a good turnout. The High Desert 8th graders are really excited to head to Vasquez. And I think that is in part that we are doing and I say we, I'm not even involved in it. But we as a district are doing a good job with the bridging from Metal Art to High Desert and High Desert to Vasquez, and doing the different events throughout the year and throughout their school years leading up to 8th grade, that is getting them excited before the road show. They're already excited to go up and be Mustangs, and those Metal Art kids are already excited to move up and be Hawks. And I think that is so important when we're not just throwing them into the road show with no idea. They know what to expect and they're already excited, and that's so cool. So shout out to all of the Vasquez students that put on the road show and their staff that was supporting the students in that endeavor. Shout out to High Desert staff for getting the kids there and getting them excited. I just want to congratulate you on a job well done for that road show. I do want to give a shout out to Mr. Tom Costin. I appreciate his time on our school board. He always had the best of intentions for our district. And I know that his presence is going to be missed. And I just want to thank him for the time that he did dedicate to our district. So thank you, Tom. And I'm definitely sad to see you moving on, but all the best of luck in the future for you and your wonderful family. One last thing, really quick. There was a Facebook memory post, and it wasn't my post, and I won't say whose it was. But basically it was from 15 years ago, and the post was something about, wow, I knew it was going to be a long one, but I'm finally home from the board meeting, 1:30 a.m. That's a whole school day. They were getting out of there at 1:30 a.m. And that was kind of normal. Midnight meetings were kind of normal. And that's wild. We do not get out at midnight anymore. And I do want to point out that at that time, we didn't loop and we didn't take turns and we didn't go one by one. It was a free for all, and somebody would be talking and we'd have interruptions and we'd have back and forths. And I want to point out that going in the order, the way that we do, and having respect for each other to not cut each other off and let somebody finish is the reason that we're not staying till 1:30 a.m. So I really just wanted to point out how much I appreciate the order that we go in and the respect that we all have for each other that was implemented before I got on the board. But it wasn't implemented that long ago to where we remember when we're staying here till 1:30, and I'm so appreciative that we don't do that anymore. And that's my comments.
I don't have a lot, but I did get to attend several things over the last few weeks into Christmas and everything. And I think every time I'm on one of our campuses and witnessing one of the events that we always proud to be part of it. Thankful for the ability to contribute. So that's it. I yield my time.
There's that. Okay, so it's on me. I went to the Laxton meeting. I'm in the district rep at the Los Angeles County School Trustees Association. They had a eye-opening discussion about artificial intelligence. Yeah, I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know whether to watch for people cheating or wondering how the kid that's coming out of school is gonna go work for a robot. One more time, I want to make sure that everyone understands that I said this on beat. On behalf of the board and district, I would like to thank not only Mr. Costan, but the entire Costan family for their innumerable contributions to the quality of life in our community. I was touched momentarily by board past president Taxoni. So I opened up my card and it says, please tell Kendra hello for me. Kendra was in his class, like she's 24 now, so a really long time ago. But apparently they haven't talked lately because she says, he said, I hope she is enjoying happiness and success in her life. Well, she's in law school, so she won't be able to enjoy any happiness in her life. That concludes our board member comments. Let's talk about calendar now. Please talk slowly. You got 3.5 minutes.
14A calendar, the regular board meeting set for February 8th as well as February 22.
Okay, 15 future agenda items. I've had a chat with the superintendent. I'd like to see the future agenda items populated with things like the obvious stuff, what your calendar looks like, the mandatory stuff, the LCAP, the first interim, blah, 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 because that kind of sets the tone if I start asking about whether or not I get free VHS tennis shoes for being the board president. So that said, does anybody want anything on the agenda in the future? Hearing nothing. There we go. We're doing better now. Do I have a motion for
I'll
adjourn?
motion. I'll second.
I'd like to recess for a second. Sorry, guys. Thanks for hanging in there. I call the question.
Cameron, I.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Mascot.
Falls your app, aye. We are adjourned at 10:59 and 59 seconds.